Hello, this is a late one, isn't it? New time, new slot, new format, new panel, new season, a new body at last. No, I'm not going that far. It feels different this time. This is our debut raw reaction show. Why did I pick those two words when I'm like Jonathan Ross? R's and W's don't work for me. Full of first impressions and kickback and emotion. So, to make the night digest well for your supper, so you can digest all the news, I have some very tasty new items. Take a look at this. We have in a moment, when we look at this, we have what the F. We start with that. Then we look at the night terrors, because before you go to bed, are you happy with what you've just seen? What's going to give you nightmares? So we do look at night terrors. And then we do start to move on to Broke Hack Bingo. See what I did there? Broke Hack Bingo. And we've got a lot of items to look at. That's going to be a fun item. Please join in. I think next week I should send the cards out for you. And then we've got the classification quest, when we actually kind of judge the episode regarding if you're advertising it on a DVD blurb. We've got the matrix metrics and everything, so that should be fun. Join in. I'll tell you, there's some good tasty stuff tonight, and I've got some crazy classifications. Oh yes. And of course we've got, how's it going, RTD? Your RTD rescue roadmap, how's it going, son? We'll take a look at that. So to get that going, we obviously need to get our friends on. So, of course, hello. Do you like my portal? I feel as I'm in 42 or something. Or is it not Smith and Jones, the one with Donna Noble as well? Remember that one with the adipose and everything? Yeah, that one. So let's get everybody on. I've got Divine and Dragon. Good to see you, Christian.
Great to be here.
I won't say a word about the episode yet. I'll just get the panel on. Hello, Sonny. Good to see you as well.
Captain Sonny Waffles, I'm here to tell the truth. I got opinions. I got things to say.
Oh, that's what we like to hear.
Oh.
And to make it a quartet, he's here. And he's here to trigger. Here we go. There he is.
Hello.
You've arrived. So we've got a very tasty, interesting panel, and I'm dying to see what you have to say. But without further ado, I'm going to get into that first item, and I think I'll introduce it with a nice segment. WTF?
Tear? Sarah Jane?
Is this death? It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.
What have I just seen? I don't believe it. I cannot believe my eyes.
There you go. Just in case anybody was in any doubt, I will have my fun items in. So, first cab on the rank, Sonny, you said you've got plenty to say. Any contentious items there? Anything troubling you? Any WTF moment?
The WTF moment itself, just almost any scene with Belinda, the doctor being vastly out of character. No. The fact that there's actually a story, like all three of those things just blow my mind. Like, but of course, there's no likable character. Gatwa overacted, like just yes. What? The whole episode is almost a WTF. I'm kind of interested, It's like, what?
There you go. I mean, we will dig into all that detail, but you can see
yeah.
Sonny's going to give us some tasty reactions tonight. I can tell. What about you, Christian?
My big WTF is this is the first time I've seen RTD actually attack the fans. There's no fine way to put it in other words. For anyone in the thread that has seen She-Hulk and the finale of that disaster, that misfire, it was all about attacking the fans that were critical of what was being done. RTD in the previous season had attacked a lot of people's perceptions of the show as well as their personal values. This time it was actually a more laser-like attack on the fans themselves. I've never seen anything like it. That sticks with me.
It was interesting. Now, I'm not putting any slides up or anything yet because I just want to get a nice little kind of taster, and then I'll come to the thread and see, because they've all been watching deliberately to come on here. So, Simon, Mr. Contrarian, any WTF moments in that episode?
Oh, well, I think most of those have just been raised by my compatriots. I can't imagine what they're talking about. I see no issues whatsoever, frankly. And the one thing I spotted that surprised me was what I take to be a continuity error. And that surprises me considerably.
It's called Doctor Who. It's called Doctor Who.
It's a big one, and it's Ncuti's clothing. He's wearing a red top before the title sequence when he runs into the TARDIS, and when he's in the TARDIS, he's got a blue one. And there doesn't appear to be any time that's passed for him to change, nor certainly any reason. So I consider that to be a somewhat what's going on here moment.
Right. Well, kind of cool is like in Sonny's cut of your jib. And I'm dying to see what he says. John Yulden's in. Is RTD being very meta? Bit like the greatest show in the galaxy, yeah. Is he playing the master and sending the show back to event 1? Oh God, Castrovalva, remember that? Nissa and Tegan, if the biggest word in the English language. I remember all that nonsense. So, and we've got Brian here, who is the Zero Room. So, of course, the Zero Room seemed to be invented in Castrovalva. So, on the WTF front, I'm going to go through one or two items that I've noticed and actually just dabble with the thread and the panel at the same time. So let's just start off on this one. This is how it ended. It was the Planet of the Apes moment that I think RTD would be hoping it was. The great reveal. The trouble is, one thing I would say is, well, how many different timelines are we dealing with here? Because obviously you can still see Belinda Chandra's star certificate. So in other words, that's in a different timeline, because how is it back on Earth to be then blown up?
There are at least 3, possibly 4 timelines, I think.
And even Stephen Moffat can get a bit too complex, but RTD can never actually join the lines. I don't think RTD is very good at the logistics of all this.
The Doctor does say there is a bit of the mystery. How did they get the certificate from the future? Although he doesn't call it a certificate, does he? He calls it a, oh dear, I've forgotten. But and in the entire show, they don't use the word certificate.
It is very important, and that's why seeing it at the end also made me go, what the F? Like, because it doesn't make any sense, and it's everywhere. And then it connects to that moment where he took it from her, and then I thought about it. I was like, that's only there just so he can drop it later to give it back to her. Like, what are we doing with this certificate? Like, why does it matter? And this is how we started the whole episode, right? And so, like, there's an actual story here. Like, there's a beginning, middle, and end. But like the
timeline.
That was
the big thing. If you get the same object touching itself from different aspects of different timelines, then it blows up. That's right. The whole plot.
Well, as Sean, who will join me on the Tuesday 8 p.m. one, which is a cheeky review, RTD's Children of Time, very different slant on it. You must tune in on that. So Sean here, a mystery regarding a certificate, gripping TV for sure. I know next week, I mean, Space Babies could have, when you have your swimming certificate, I mean, honestly, I mean, the things he thinks make TV, but it's the 24th of May, she can't get back to. So the moment I'm saying is what the F is, because 17th of May is the Eurovision. That's the big night when we get the episode 6. And a week later, she can't get back to Britain to do her shift in our hospital. And so I'm thinking, well, episode 7 is obviously the wish world, and this is when I think the reality goes chaotic. So there's a reason they can't get back, because reality's been changed for the 2-part final. There's going to be something like that, I'm guessing, because obviously that's 24th of May is actually episode 7. But that was that one.
The Doctor says when he's standing up the TARDIS that was halfway between the Belinda planet and Earth, and then we see bits of the planet Earth floating past. That doesn't seem to be quite sensible.
Well, did you, Christian, have a flux moment? Because I was thinking, oh God, this is Chibnall's universe we've just landed in.
Well, it may well be. He's certainly destroyed half
Hello,
the
Chibnall's
universe.
world.
He's going to do the other half. But I look at it through this lens. He built up with the audience expecting a payoff last season. I'm not expecting his payoff to be any more significant this time around, because he, like you pointed out, he has a hard time drawing the strings together. So he'll go with a flippant do ex machina moment, or not even address it at all and say that was all a part of the plan, to really undercut your expectations. And
the Doctor does say there is mystery here, and he's still got to sort out. So that bit with the, I can't think of the word they used, but it wasn't certificate. When that is addressed, we may know more.
Well, yeah, it's called RTD makes it up as each series goes along, and he just goes, oh, there's a mystery here, because I don't know the answer myself. Remember, if 4 Knocks in Writer's Tale, he didn't know the solution to that way on. But I want to bring this up because actually this is a what the F, that we're all males here, and there's a male on that photograph. Cybermat strikes one of my detoxes. I get blown up with objects crossing their own timeline. But why does little Alan Budd revert to sperm? And
you're asking too many questions.
And I have to say there is an issue. There is an issue with this. Can I just quote Eccleston's series Boomtown? Now in Boomtown, Margaret Sletheen, the Doctor, he wanted her to stop being evil, but he took her back to being a pod and he allowed her to rehabilitate and start again. He believed in the nature versus nurture argument. Start again with good parents and you'll be a nice little Sletheen. However, this time he was gleefully watching the sperm and the egg being polished, because obviously him being such a toxic male, we need him hoovered up.
Well, he wouldn't be able to do anything with it anyway, since that was nowhere near a woman. So it was pretty much dead as he was. So it was just cleaning up, I think.
Well, it was cleaning up, but it was the mechanism of cleaning up, the attitude behind it. Basically, they've killed off the character.
He's a
but
different
he did
bloke,
it with the most insulting mechanism he could think of.
Well, it's this kind of, if Alan Budd is the most toxic male that can, as a caricature, he needs to be hoovered up, eliminated and erased, and the Doctor gleefully enjoyed him being hoovered up, whereas he allowed Margaret Sletheen a second chance. So I will always contest, has the Doctor's character changed so much? Yes. I've got someone, later on I will say that the Doctor's character is so different to all the other ones in another regard, but I'm going to save that for a bit later. But good point, Cybermat Strikes. Mad Mackham, I'll explain more later, no doubt, but I'm sad to say I was actually bored during the episode. Anyone notice the rehashed plots from the first Star Trek movie? I noticed I thought there was a vibe of Mars Attacks. There was an element where it had that kind of black humor, that kind of thing, and I was thinking, am I supposed to be taking this seriously or not? I'm not quite sure.
What was the poster in his room when he was got at? I was trying to work it out. It was a science fiction film poster.
Okay, I know. I'll have to keep checking. Doctor Who Monthly came with a copy of that certificate. Yes, I've got it over there. Yes, so they're going to come for me next. Will that save me from the coming apocalypse, or will it help me? I think they were giving all them star certificates to everybody getting in dinghies as well coming across. I think I think it gets you a ticket to a lot of places. Peter Harrington, it will be universal destruction, those two items meeting. Well, we have to move on from what they F in a minute. However, that is one of them, Peter. The issue of, when I watch the Three Doctors, I mean, lads here, Three Doctors, antimatter and matter, Arc of Infinity, you know, while you had the Rice Krispies or Omega Face, he could have blown up the whole of the universe, so they had to kill him quickly, you know, and that's why Omega in Amsterdam was trying to huff and puff and try to kill himself early because he wanted to blow up the universe. Now you just hug Belinda as she touches antimatter or whatever, and it doesn't matter. It's amazing.
Well, it's not antimatter, though, is it?
Yeah.
No,
It's not
No,
been
it's a time
described
thing.
precisely what these things are.
it's a time thing. It's a time hug. It wasn't a
Yeah.
time twerk. It was a time
No,
hug.
I think they even said timey-wimey in the episode again, and I was like,
Oh, yes.
I was like,
And she said, "What,
of
am I
course,
6?"
Am I sick?
Which I thought was
Yeah,
lovely.
I mean, sure, but it's like I thought we were being new and original, and like this is a different doctor, and
I also
well, she
thought we
slapped
were.
him down, didn't she?
Well, I thought the episode was about toxic masculinity and consent and coercive behavior. And there's the doctor hugging her and pulling her back. Didn't ask permission, and then, you know, all the rest of it. I mean, because she was quite happily going to sacrifice herself, and you know,
she
so
was. Yeah.
and then of
I
course,
just don't
you see, the other thing is, you know, coercive behavior is very, very bad people and toxic and nasty, but he gleefully, in a way, saw her whole timeline and said, "Oh, I saw your life." And I'm thinking, but that's prying. Is that, it's not coercive, but it's a little bit strange, isn't it? It's a bit like stalking.
Yeah.
Well, she did rather make that point herself.
Well, yeah, but isn't it funny how Alan Budd has to be turned into a sperm and cleaned up? But when the doctor's a bit toxic, it's all right. As long as you apologize, it's okay.
Well,
What do
it's
they call it?
Alan
Plot armor?
Budd destroyed a planet rather than just a little bit. I think it's a method of degree here.
What do you think, Christian?
I think RTD is selective about what rules he wants to follow and what rules he wants to dismiss. If it's something that's inconvenient to what he's trying to do in the plot or with the character or with the message, toss it. But if it might support something, then he'll hold on to it. So I'm not seeing consistency unless we're talking about something that's consistently bad. That's just my take.
Right, so we've got that one. Alan Budd, you can die because you're toxic. That's allowed. And then, of course, is this, I mean, this is not toxic masculinity, is it, when you cry? That's lovely. That's really progressive and wonderful. It was a very good tear this time. It was a really rich, vivid tear, wasn't it? He was really, really... I'm conflicted because one week he's after Rogue and he's after a bit of rough, and the next week he likes Sasha 55. As a friend, I know.
It wasn't a sexual thing. It was a big, deep friendship thing that had lasted 6 months through a war experience.
Yeah, I mean,
6 months that we didn't get to see any of, and she was literally the only character I liked in this episode.
Simon,
the middle of the show was missing.
But he was a year with Anita in Joy to the World, and he got over leaving her. And this Sasha for 6 months, whoa! And of course,
Anita wasn't killed.
I think we used to say fag hag, didn't we? We used to say, I think he has his best buddy, and oh God, honestly, it's beyond belief. So yes, so the doctor.
Can I just say I hated this moment the most because they faked me out. I was like, she died, and then I was like, oh, he's gonna cry now, right? And then he didn't cry, and I was like, oh, okay. And then he cried, and I was like, what the heck? So this was.
But I was learning, because although I'm an older dinosaur, Neanderthal bigot, and all the things they think. I'm learning that actually a toxic male would find this disapproving, and all the nice people will see this as a great moment. So I'm learning that when we talk about toxic masculinity, the doctor's not. It's really good. It was so well written and nuanced and subtle, but I worked it out. It was good.
It's really
God.
fun.
Can I just point out that I've watched it actually 4 times now,
Oh, well,
and
you will be
You liked
afflicted
it.
now. You
and I did not initially think of this as being a toxic masculinity story at all. Subsequently, I could pick up those bits and read it in that light. But on first viewing, which I greatly enjoyed, I did not see that. I did not feel that. I felt he was
Agreed.
just a baddie gone mad. And the doctor does say in every 9th word he says, he shows that he was in pain. He wasn't doing this really, he said, which
That's what he
didn't
said.
rather square with the rest of the story.
Well,
I
there
must
he is.
admit.
That's Alan now. It was a bit Cybermen on the cheap, wasn't it?
Very.
Cybermen with disco
Beautiful
lights.
makeup.
A little Dalek in the
Gorgeous
show.
makeup.
And there he is. That's the moment when you can touch. She was doing it's that spying game. It's the kiss of death, or it's the mafia kiss. You know, I will touch you and I'll give you the star certificate, and I'm gonna smash you to smithereens. Oh, that's girl power for you.
Come on,
Because
Fred.
if you're
What did they call it rather than certificate? Somebody
so
knows.
there you go. That person there is a toxic male. There you go. That's apparently
It doesn't
how
even
it
make
should be done.
sense because they didn't set up the villain at all. They're like, here's a nice guy who maybe wants to get married one day. Then he's gone the entire time, and it's not even a surprise when you're like, yeah, that's him. And then he just goes like, yeah, that's me. And it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
because we saw him being romantic. We didn't.
right.
We got told later that he wanted us to stop texting or stop this or stop that, but that only came later, so it's a cheat. And the other, it's not a what the F, but later on, I'm going to talk about how, for God's sake, the story was this, on the sacrificial altar for the narrative arc. It's feeding too much in. The story itself is always finished early. The story is quite kind of straightforward. And to be honest, and I think Simon was texting me earlier, there was an element to me, I'm thinking that could have been quite a good 3 or so episode if they just built it slowly. But
Absolutely.
Yes, I have to say, since we didn't get the context of the relationship or the context of the way she grew up, there was no payoff, just like there's no real payoff when Sasha is killed and the doctor reacts. But if you set up a 2 or 3 episode pattern where you build up and you can get the payoff, and the payoff means something,
yeah,
you've actually got a good story. But how often have we talked about the need to go back to world building and expanding the story length in order to allow the story, the world, to breathe? We aren't being given that.
Yeah, I mean, Sonny, I'll let you come in, but we had Mrs. Flood, who's going to be in everything. Then we have at the end the end of the universe type thing, and then we get going through a kind of force field timeline thing. I always think of the casual viewer, Sonny. Was the story enough? Because there were all these bits that only feed the fans, so to speak. What were you thinking, Sonny?
DD is right, but the issue is if you're a good writer, right, we would still have that build up and pay off. He didn't tell the story in order. If he just told it in order, we would have at least had that build up. Like, we didn't know how he got kidnapped until the end. We didn't know what was going on, right, until like he's telling the story out of order, but he's not even using time travel to like enhance it, right, which is like the point of the show, time travel. So it's just it's not intelligently done, so it breaks apart the whole narrative. And then, like you said, now it's feeding too much into the whole seasonal arc. This story can't stand alone by itself. Now I got up twice to leave to do anything else and came back to the episode, and I watched it right after I got off of work, so I'm tired, right? And I still found the energy to get up and leave from this episode. And there's still a story here, though. Like, I can still talk about it. I still know what happened, but it's like I wasn't engaged through the whole thing.
Right.
And honestly,
Clearly.
it dropped when Mrs. Flood showed up. That's why like it all connected to me when I saw the Mr. Flood picture, because like I was like, I only know about it because I like Doctor Who and I looked it all up. But like nobody else would know about it. And she even said, "You're not gonna see me anymore." And then she
Oh,
left.
well, breaking the
She
fourth
said,
wall
"You
as
didn't
well.
see me." She
Well,
said it's fourth wall breaking to us.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, but this breaking the fourth wall before the title sequence is kind of saying to a casual viewer. I know Lee Smith is going, "What casual viewers?" But if there was a rogue, ill, unwell casual viewer who kind of flicked on the wrong channel, they'll go, "Oh, it's not taking itself seriously because it's talking at me." Now, we call this WTF. You've heard our first kind of venting of stuff. We're going to build through this as the panel know now. And so our next item, you see, obviously in Britain, it's getting late. So I'm associating this with nightmares. So our next item, and please thread, join in. The next item is, from what you saw in that episode, is there something that's more substantial that is really worrying you and would stop you sleeping at night, would really get at you? So let's have a talk about night terrors. Here we go. All right.
Must
Are you
take
scared
ages to
now?
do.
I know. They're fun. I enjoy all this. So, Christian, you still got a few hours in America before you go to bed. But do you think there's something in that episode where you're going, "That's going to really, really dig at me when I'm trying to sleep"?
Yes. What about the poor pussycat?
Oh, yes.
Well, Brendan knows me.
Yes, it's
I
irrelevant.
love animals, and so it's almost like watching a movie. They can kill all the people they want, but don't hurt the dog. It's like, you just vaporized an innocent cat. How could you do that?
Well, that's why I
That
thought it
is
was like
too irrelevant.
that's when I thought it was like Mars Attacks. That's had that vibe to it when there was just,
fell
you
about
know,
with
they've
that. That
shot
was
the
marvelous.
president. Funny enough, Christian, I'll disagree with you on that one. I'm thinking I wanted the death count up, and you can get the cat, you can get anything. I loved it.
Absolutely.
That's giving me
I
no
was in-
nightmares at all. That's making me think Doctor Who's actually
That
got
was-
its back.
That was one of the moments I got up and walked away.
Oh.
By the way, I missed it twice.
Was it? I didn't mind that effect, but obviously because this is night terrors, I won't dwell on that yet. So
We
Sunny
didn't
is
actually see the cat, though, did we? We saw
No.
its charred
Okay,
remains.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
it shows you RTD. Maybe it'll give me a nightmare knowing that RTD really wants. I mean, it's a bit like when David Tennant wants the leader of the opposition erased, eliminated. Alan Budd is turned into a sperm and hoovered up. You've got the cat, the pesky cat from next door, is obliterated to ashes. I mean, is RTD a little
Living
bit
in a
tense?
farm.
he's in destructive mode. Don't get in his way. So, Sonny, was there something in that episode where you're going, "No, that's really, really going to get at me. That is going to bother me a lot"?
It's a tie. I said this in like a pre-post when we were talking. I woke up. After I went to work and I watched this, I woke up like 2 or 3 times intermittently, and I was like, thinking about the episode. And it was a tie between just Belinda's character in general and the part where he gets turned into sperm and sucked up. Because like, but then I was like, would that really scare me? I'm like, it conceptually it does, but then I'm like, it would scare me more like as a kid. Like I would probably be more upset and have nightmares from like just Belinda yelling at me, like going like, "Take me home, do this, do what I say," and like just whatever like that's what I would be hearing in my head. I'm just like, like you're not enjoyable.
It's kind of funny, the things that stick with you. There was one moment that does stick with me. If I were writing the story and I wanted to make the characters sympathetic and interesting and make the story more balanced, would have been to have Belinda tell the doctor, "Oh, we dated for 2 years. I know his parents. I've got to go tell them what happened to him.
Right.
They deserve to know.
But
And there's
but at
no
the
there's no
beginning she was
sense of
all
that.
yeah, no, but at the beginning she was all oh, tell my mom and my dad I'm being kidnapped by robots. Your boyfriend was kidnapped by robots. She didn't care about him. She called them
Didn't know at that time.
king of the incels. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If as an adult watching that, one of the nightmares or night terrors I might have is, gosh, women are scary. That
Yeah.
it's just that, you know, if I was a younger lad and I was wanting to date lasses and all the rest of it, the way they're getting written in Doctor Who now, you think, God, they're a little bit kind of,
Yeah.
you make. I don't know. You might be a bit too stroppy. You might be a bit this. You might be in a mood. But as somebody was saying in the thread just a bit earlier, look at Eccleston in Dalek. He kicked off. He kicked off in a few scenes, and we loved it. But now that's a toxic masculinity, and he needs to settle down. The Chris Eccleston Doctor. Whoa, he's out. I think my night terror is how some of these women are really in your face. And look, I don't mind a Donna Noble having an argument with the David Tennant Doctor sometimes, that brother, sister, sibling rivalry type dialogue. But when Belinda turns around and, and she, I don't like the way you're speaking to me. And you think, what is this? This is Doctor Who. This is...
But Brendan, there's one key difference with Donna compared to Belinda. Donna's character had a comic underpinning that helped the dynamic of the relationship. Belinda is written as simply mean-spirited. She is not a nice person. She's in the hospital. The guy's clearly broken arm, clearly in pain, and she makes insulting, derogatory comments. Was it your wife? As she rolls her eyes and walks.
Not to him.
Christian, we've seen this in jobs, and I have to say, look, a lot of men, and we can speak for men, a lot of men try and be polite and open doors and do this and do that. We try and do what we think is what a gentleman should do. I think it's still called manners. Yeah. But then you always get a woman like Belinda who goes, don't call me miss, call me Ms. Don't do this, don't do that. And you just think, I don't know how to speak to you. I don't know how to treat you. I don't know how to approach you. But they're all spiky.
She didn't ever say, call me Ms. She didn't.
She didn't, but yet we're on the way, though. She's on the spectrum.
No, that's what you're saying. That's from your perspective.
Yeah, I am.
How can you not see the big thing, the big absolute real world nightmare, that of us being taken over by artificial intelligence robots and allowing it to slide into our world unaddressed? That's the biggie, isn't it? The fact that it turned out to be Al rather than AI is not relevant.
Simon, that is a brilliant
insight.
This is
absolutely real and should be discussed everywhere.
Yeah.
And
well,
it is not.
No, because when AI did my script for tonight, it didn't tell me to mention that. So no.
well, actually, but Simon brings up a very good point. AI is very relevant right now. Obviously, that was kind of the way the narrative was constructed. That was almost a red herring. But it is something that should give people pause for consideration. And because of the way the story was structured and the tone of the story that was generated, the gravitas that should be attached to this deep an issue was lost. Completely. I did not feel invested in the threat that they were trying to create.
I think,
yes.
I mean,
the pain they were feeling, sort of save us.
I'm going to say this very fast.
Very powerful.
I'm going to say this fast so I can't be turned into a soundbite that Simon uses later because he's the contrarian. Because, yes, it's a good point, but let's get on with it. But the other thing is, while it's a good point, the story writing has conflated it with a toxic male. If it was just an AI, but it turned into her ex-boyfriend, and that was the issue.
As I said, I didn't spot that first time. First time round, I spotted the robots taking over, basically being controlled by a fascist society. That's the thing.
Because they added all of that at the end.
I saw the other one and could see the link between the two. And I thought
Well,
that
They
was
just
very well
edited it
done.
at the end somewhere.
well, I was just going to
Sorry,
say, God, I'm losing my thread on my own self here. Mark Milford was saying here, his night terror, what scares him, and is given his nightmares is a season 3. But so yeah, I still like our humor that's out there. Sadako 24, you could say maybe the same about Tegan or Ace being a bit unapproachable. I do,
Agreed.
Sadako. I didn't like Tegan when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't mind Janet.
I still
Fitton.
don't like Tegan.
No, I didn't, because Peter Davison's doctor was quite a gentleman as well, and I felt as though she badgered him. I didn't like that dynamic, and I can understand why Peter Davison quite liked the Sarah Sutton type companion. Really, just going, just be scientific and blow up that android. Thanks.
Yeah, it's fun.
So
And
yeah,
Tegan's not fun. Belinda's not fun. And Belinda is just a later version of Tegan, a progressive version of Tegan. That's all it is.
when do we say toxic female? When's that
Yeah,
allowed?
toxic femininity. That was one of my points too. I was like, Belinda's an excellent example of a toxic female, a toxic femininity that's
I
rampant throughout
disagree totally.
the West.
It's
You
just
want a toxic female, go for Missy.
Missy is awesome, and she's a
Exactly.
villain. She's supposed to be toxic. She's a villain. So Belinda's a villain. Apparently,
I think not.
she would be a better character if she was a villain.
Oh, actually, I actually agree with that, Sonny. When
Yeah.
someone has the disposition that Belinda has displayed, they would almost be better as an antagonist, narratively.
Right, Dalek Lives Matters here.
in the time.
Sorry, could there be something in it we're not getting because he throws in bones for some of us to chew on, whilst him and his kind are writing coded stuff for each other and young children? That's what Dalek Lives Matter says. I think this is the problem. Write a story which is watertight and just cohesive just for that one story. I am actually getting pretty bored now by all these crumbs of other narrative arcs. It's just too much, too tedious. Good to see Rachel. She'll have been streaming away like a good one with hay fever. Belinda was so rude, says Rachel. She didn't shout though, Rachel, but she, maybe her chat was a bit spiky. We don't approve. Mr. Squinty Mint. The problem is RTD's brand of progressiveness is 40 years out of date. Most people are more equivocal when they raise these issues. Mr. Squinty Meat, you're going to like our next item coming up, which is the Broke Hack Bingo. Oh, ho, ho. Get your scorecards out because it'll hit all those agenda items. I can't wait.
I have my notes.
Yes, I haven't played bingo for years. Demorpin Donna has also had a huge amount of compassion for others. She did, actually. She did.
Belinda's a nurse. She also has compassion for others. She was helping the guy in the tunnels or whatever, which was my least favorite part.
At the very beginning, when we had the blooming rubbish pop music, when it's going to be a light moment, it was like Rose at the beginning and all that, when it's called an RTD edited sequence, where basically rubbish music, it goes a bit too fast, it feels a bit flippant. During that sequence in the hospital, when she was being a really good, busy nurse and he was failing to bump into her, I need to go back and check some of the dialogue. Did she seem a bit rude to one of the patients when she said, is this your husband, wife? She seemed just a little bit off. Did anyone say anything? I need to go back because I just thought she seemed a bit flip.
She said those 2 points. Were you bitten by a dog? She said directly to him as a medical question. She then said,
"Are you pregnant?"
Slightly less powerfully, was it a man? And then moving away after having had no response from him whatsoever, she made that final comment. I can't remember what it was now, but
was it your wife?
So she was.
Wife. Yes.
Yeah. So she's being
he was being so negative to women by just completely ignoring her. Was how I read it.
Well, he was a bit ill. She was a sarcastic nurse, and she should have known better. Mind you, she's
Didn't
failed.
hear that though, did he?
She's failed as a nurse though, because she didn't say, "Are you a woman? Are you pregnant?" She didn't ask the questions they all have to be asked nowadays. I'm being cheeky.
Oh, I spotted that.
Completely
so,
forgettable.
Go on, Sonny. What was that?
The beginning part was completely forgettable. I only watched it once for this little impressions and just completely forgettable. I don't remember it. I was just like, okay, she's a nurse. That's all I got from it.
Yeah. Just a quick reminder, because this is our first impressions, but we're going to play bingo and we're going to talk about various things. So first impressions is our Saturdays at 11, as you know, because you're all here. Formal reviews with Rachel and John and the crowd and Michelle, 5:45 tomorrow, when we've got the mark criteria, the burning issues, the ratings watcher. Oh, I'm already getting the burning issues in. They're sending me their scorecards. And then, of course, Sean, who's also in the thread there, RTD's Children of Time. It's going to be cheeky. It's going to be sarcastic. I've got all his quotes on what Doctor Who should be, and we're going to have our checklist. It's going to be quite fun. So welcome to our Who Night. And we can't have Who Night without playing a bit of bingo. And this is a bingo I've been looking forward to playing for a while. Do you want to play bingo, everyone in the thread? Because this is Who Bingo. This is RTD's Who Bingo. And I think I might have to send you the scorecards for next week. Ready, everybody? Let's play bingo.
Do we get to shout TARDIS if we win?
I quite like having this kind of. Oh, by the way, I missed on my night terrors. Look at that. As an English teacher, double, sci-fi rubble, all concern and canon trouble. Oh, I mean, I've been working hard today, but I should just laud it for myself there. Do you like that one, Christine, as an English teacher?
I love it.
Remind me next week. Double, sci-fi rubble, all concern and canon trouble. There you go. So anyway, so broke hack bingo. See what I'm doing there? So
no, I don't actually. I'm sorry.
Just change one of the letters. Sorry?
No, I don't get it.
Right. There is a movie called Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain, yeah.
Right.
And
okay.
Obviously, people sometimes call RTD a hack, so it's kind of broke out.
Right. I see. Yes.
Here we go. So if people haven't seen this, of course, this is the scorecard. So I want the thread to help us out here, because every week we judge the episode on how many of these it hits. That doesn't mean it's a good episode. That might mean it's a blooming awful episode. But here's the sci-fi scorecard for Broke Hack Bingo. So I'll just introduce a few. You've got classic Who references, soap opera moments, the Doctor cries, tick. Companion has agency, Mavity, Badman trope, timey-wimey, tick. The MacGuffin, virtues are all signalled, verbal affectations, gender fluidity, anti-capitalist and anti-religion. There's a song or dance moment. There's a canon change, identity. Whoa, there's loads there, aren't there? So, let's have some fun. How far did this episode go down the broke hack bingo road? Christian,
virtually all of the buttons have been pushed on one level or another. It's almost painful. For example, I'm looking at Mavity. So, well, we didn't hear Mavity. No, but we certainly heard a schwupp. So we're inserting another bit of lingo into the manufactured lingo into the story. Taken by itself, it would be funny, but there you have it. Gosh, Doctor cries. I mean, that's kind of a dead giveaway.
We have people asking. I mean, Lee Smith's asking, "Where's the twerking?" I incorporated that in son or dance moment.
Right. Yes, there's a.
You can only count.
Yeah.
You
'Cause
can only
they're-
count the beginning, I guess. The beginning, there was a song at the beginning. I guess you can count that as a song moment. The Belinda
He was
scene, maybe.
dancing as he went into the TARDIS at the end, wasn't he?
He was feeling it. He was in
Yeah,
the
he was
zone.
overacting. That's what he was doing. Like him kissing it and just the way him dancing and moving. I hate that. Like, that's just so.
Well, Rachel's got it here. He did that high kick, and she counts that as a dance move.
True
And
point. Yes.
Rachel
You
said it.
know,
She's the queen of the
so
world.
everybody in the thread, you can play the game, and like I said, I'm going to have to work out how I can send this to you. But basically, there are 22 items there on our bingo scorecard. You have a count now, and then put your number in the thread, and I'm going to average these out and keep a score every week. Obviously, I'm going to talk to the panel as well about where they think where he hits bad. I mean, for example, and by the way, can I just say, I actually created this before I saw the episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, the doctor being indecisive, Belinda had to grab him at one point, didn't she? Remember?
mhm.
She, yet
No.
again, he was there to save her as the historian. He got promoted fast for the moment to meet the Queen. And once he met her, this revolution, this rebellion wasn't very good, was it? Because as soon as they all started shooting with guns, he was hiding. And then suddenly, when somebody got shot, Sasha 55, Belinda was the one that had to push him through and get him moving. It had a bit of Mel about it again. And you think, oh, tick, Doctor Indecisive.
Yeah.
Sonny, which
Yeah.
one do you
That
want to
the indecision. He was
do you wanna
thinking.
pick on-
He
you wanna
just
pick
wasn't
on one?
thinking about his own safety.
Well, that's not the doctor, is it? Canon change.
Yeah.
Sonny, do you want to pick on one and give an example?
We clicked Timey Wimey. He had 3 costume changes. The MacGuffin was the whatchamacallit, the thing. I said virtue signals when she called Al King of the Incels for literally no reason. And then I'm like, but you dated him. That's your boyfriend. He was kidnapped. He disappeared 10 years ago, remember? But no, he's the king of the incels. Okay. Virtue signal,
Well,
though.
that's
That's
why
a
she left him.
term.
While you're also looking, and I'll ask Christian next, just for a few. We're not going to go through the whole card, but we want the thread to give us some scores. So, see, when is Brendan going to twerk during the live stream? Actually, me and John Daly were discussing this. Rachel's still on, and Rachel's on our panel tomorrow night. We will come back. We've had so many people tell us that we should dance at the beginning. So tomorrow night, Rachel, we're dancing again. So see, tomorrow night at 5:45, when the panel come on, they're all dancing. That's the deal. So there you go. So Christian, which ones do you want to pick on with examples here?
Well, girl power. I mean, it's all about Belinda and her power. Let's see. Companion has agency. I mean, she's the one who's driving the narrative. She's the one who dictates way things are going. We're playing with the timey-wimey bit. How about this one? The bad man trope. You've got one speaking white male in the resistance fighters. He has total dislike and disregard of Belinda, sight unseen. And it's like, where did this animus come from? So we're writing that character in that negative way, and then of course we double down when we meet Alan again. So, my gosh,
We undo it at the end, though, don't we?
Now, Rachel, I saw her text earlier, and no doubt on her stream she'll mention a bit more on this one. So here she is here. Bad man trope, agreeing with you, Christian. They made Alan a bad man, incel, and turned him into a disabled man on a life support machine. Where have I heard that one before? How come? And quite rightly, Rachel pointed this out in one of her tweets, which is, why is Davros in a wheelchair no longer allowed? Because that's an evil trope of disability. And yet this man is supposed to, is a half... Good point, Rachel. Good point. Do you think RTD has an answer? Yes.
I bet he'll be back in his chair. Just you wait.
He better be. He better be. Well,
I quite agree.
It's been counted by Mad McCann. Good for you. 18, you said. So I win a fluffy Gatwa. So I'll keep a count of the numbers. 18. Now, yes, I've got timey-wimey, yes. Badman trope, yes. No Mavity was mentioned, unless I missed it. Companion as agency, Dr. Cries, soap opera moment. I always tick
saw
yes.
no identity politics. Did anybody else manage to twist something into that?
Miss.
No, that isn't identity politics, is it?
It is. It's your own identity. I mean, how many women I work with who said miss? I don't know. Am I being unfair, Christian?
I think you are. Yes.
It's an attempt to control pronouns.
Yeah.
It's damn the same rule. It's the
That
same
is it.
stuff.
She just does not like the idea of that.
I cannot believe in a 40
married or thinking that marriage is important.
I cannot believe in a 45-minute episode we always have time for a pronoun debate or a Mrs. debate. I mean, really, this is sci-fi, and the universe is at risk, and he has time.
It was the trigger for the denouement, though, wasn't it? Because when she mentioned it, and he said, "Are you married?" There you go. You know, click it, the door opens.
Oh, I mean, it's
for the villain he didn't set up.
Yeah, it's all a bit convenient, isn't it? If it was a 4-episode story, he wouldn't have to do these kind of, dramatic kind of conveniences.
Right.
He does need a good other half hour, or indeed.
Did you have any Easter eggs in that one? I can't really think.
Yeah,
I saw an Easter egg, but it's a very personal one. In the background of quite a number of the shots, there was 405 line television that I grew up with. It was a Murphy 405 line TV, black and white, obviously, but it had I think a fairly still color picture on it. I loved that. That was most definitely a personal Easter egg.
I'm glad you're having fun.
He's always contrary, isn't he? He goes off on one. He goes I mean, honestly, do you know, Simon? In that episode tonight, there were a few different parallel universes or times, it seemed, and you're in another one again. How do we do it? No, I'm joking.
Well, I must admit there is some truth in that. I have never been exactly in with the crowd, and I'm quite happy about that.
That's why we like you, because we have debate and discussion, and we're not all echoing the same thing. Sonny, is there anything else we haven't mentioned there before I move on from our bingo item? Is there another kind of element where you go, no, that really that got me?
No, I'm kind of shocked there wasn't a more overt, like, anti-capitalist message or a classic message that I could find, but I don't know all of Classic Who. I'm also interested to hear a soap opera moment, but like I can't think of one from off of my head.
Yes, soap opera.
Christian?
Soap opera moment. We're getting the proposal. We're at the very opening. I often consider those shots of someone in tears a nice soap opera moment to kind of carry things. I don't know that him kissing the little polish robot qualifies, or kissing the TARDIS, but we do have some moments that kind of fit that role. We do have our kind of MacGuffin. I'm getting the feeling that the start of the story, if he's trying to create an arc, is to misguide us and take us on a tangent, thus the last shot and the narrative arc clue that he's trying to set up. But that goes back to what Brendan is saying. This is not a self-contained story.
No.
So you can't watch this and get the satisfaction of closure. You're supposed to watch all eight episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Who noticed the gender fluidity thing?
I didn't.
We're wearing a dress, I guess.
Well, no, that wasn't a dress. That was.
Let me think.
I'll set a Scot on you at once. No, when he held up the X-ray blanket, if you happen to be watching in HD TV, you could see the little tick, but it said "sex undetermined."
Very good.
Not available.
Wow. Why is that on an X-ray machine?
Impressive, Simon. Impressive.
How have you
Wow.
saved that for not the what the I mean,
Yeah, that's a WTF. You're gonna
that's
find it.
the doctors on. Oh no, that you're gonna
Yeah.
blow up the thread now. Everybody
What
go and get that
the heck?
moment.
That's crazy. That's
Oh,
crazy.
I've counted about, and I'm counting as I'm talking. I think I've counted about 16. So if
It was
anybody else can
gender,
help
not,
us,
I think the word was gender. Yes.
yeah.
Anyway, it's
Oh,
quite clear.
yeah. So I think so that means it's scoring quite predictably out of 22. That's pretty bad.
Mm.
Yeah. So yes, we may come back to it, but we've got to classify this episode yet, and that's going to be a bit of fun as well. So that was the bingo for now. I hope you enjoyed that item. If you want the scorecards, we'll have to find out a way how to do it. But that was broke hack bingo for now. I think the number's about 16, I think. So I'll score that this week.
I don't think there was any canon check.
Yay!
Right.
I'm getting ready for dancing. I really am. So the next thing to do is to classify the actual story, and this is going to be in our classification. I can't speak tonight. Classification quest. So are you ready up for this one? So again, the thread and the panel, we're going to pretend we've got a blank DVD cover. Having seen that episode, how are we going to judge the trigger warnings, classify it, who's allowed to watch it, what type of program is it? That's where we're going to go with this one. Hopefully it's a nice bit of fun for this late night Who night. Here we go. Okay, classification quest. So here we go. Now this is going to be really interesting on where we go with this one, right? So let me go big, lads, here. So I apologize if we can hear you, of course, but we can't see you. So on the matrix metric at the top in yellow, how would you judge that episode? Because I think RTD always tells us that Doctor Who can be a lot of different genres, can't it? Famously, Philip Hinchcliffe's era was gothic horror, right? So, Christian, if I started with you, how would you define that episode, The Robot Revolution?
Okay. I'm going to be kind of snarky here and say Disney, which isn't on the list. I'm being facetious. I would say it's supposedly sci-fi, just looking at the visual stamp of the story. But there's no gravitas, and I'm inclined to plug comedy, however misattributed, into the mix. So it's supposed to be some kind of sci-fi comedy along the lines of Guardians of the Galaxy or something. He's trying to plug in humor that's very Marvel-esque, and it's not landing for me.
Do you know what? When I was gathering all this together before the episode. It's got a touch of the romance going wrong. It's kind of Fatal Attraction. It's kind of, it's kind of when you date somebody, he might actually come back and get you. There's an element to that. Yeah. I suppose if you want to say Disney, you've got Fairy Tale there, haven't you? Sonny, how would you define this episode, and therefore did it fit what you want from Doctor Who as well?
It's a dull sci-fi soap opera. That's the only way I can see it, because it wasn't set up properly. It was told that it really irritates me now, telling stories out of order just for no reason. That's like, I guess that's the soap opera element of it, but it just makes it dull because I don't know what's happening and I have no investment in these people. And the only person I like, he kills. This is the second RTD episode I've watched, and he kills the only person I like in the season 2. So it's sci-fi. They go to another planet. The Doctor does a revolution thing, like that's classic Doctor Who, I guess. You know, there's robots, but like it opens with a soap opera scene. Like now that I know that, like, and overall, like it's just dull. Like for what we for Doctor Who, it's dull. Like this is a 4.5 out of 10. Like I struggle to give it a 3 out of 5. Like it's really a 2.8. Like it's just I can't. It's not fun sci-fi.
Yeah, so are we looking at the Matrix metric at the moment? So what would you say, Simon? How would you define it genre-wise of what type of story we had then?
Well, what struck me was the horror aspect of a society that ran perfectly well for centuries and yet could be taken over by just one person in less than 10 years with a little bit of technological advance over the others, and turn a wonderful society into one of oppression and horror. And I mean, seriously, that is a very frightening thing. And people should recognize that fact because it's happening now, isn't it?
So I get what you're saying, and that message is in there.
We can do things about it, folks. I mean, we can talk about it, we can look at it, we can work out what's going on, we can fix it, we can head it off, and show us like this, show us how to do that.
You had the Sunmakers, which was a parody of the tax system. You know, we've got stories in Classic Who where they have, you know, you can have the dads and the mums have that smile on their face going, oh, this is having a dig at the tax system. Or you could argue if this was a 4-episode story and over weeks, the parents could have said, oh, this is having a dig at kids are on the computer too much or a bit of AI. And I think by letting it digest and doing it the old-fashioned episodic way, I actually think this story might have landed. But I am giving him a yellow. I'm giving him a yellow card because he wants to rush it through. So I'm not giving him an award for saying, well done, you're making a point about AI. If you want to make about a point about AI and the dangers of it, RTD, do it over a series of weeks and sell it big.
It's possible he might.
Wouldn't it have been?
You don't know that.
But wouldn't it have been nice if we could have seen it?
Yeah,
just any of it, like any of that robot civilization, any of it.
Yeah, I think the big challenge.
That's exactly where the other 2 episodes are missing.
Yeah, the other 2 episodes are missing, and Simon brings up a good point. In terms of science fiction, that is one of the most powerful and currently relevant topics that could have been explored at great depth, but instead, the narrative, that backdrop is literally reduced to a backdrop behind the plot that we're supposed to be witnessing unfold. And so it basically gets short shifted. We don't get a chance to really dig into the issue. And it's a serious issue.
Now, let's just kind of when I say live
up,
I'm just being helpful to the thread as well as they get used to our items. So in the middle there, you've got the seal of Razalon. So we need a seal on the back of this DVD cover of the Robot Revolution. Do you call it? You've only got 3 choices, thread and panel. Was
One
that
choice,
Doctor
3
Who?
options?
Was that Doctor Who, or was it Doctored Who, or was it Doctor No? So, Christian, which one are you going for?
For me, it's definitely no Doctor. It doesn't qualify as Doctor Who. And I say that for a variety of reasons, some specific metrics. The tone is off. The execution of the narrative as it's designed is off. And the representation of the Doctor himself is off. If there was something in it that felt like Doctor Who and we didn't have a skin suit calling it that, I might say Doctored Who. But that's a step closer to the real thing. So for me, this is Doctor No.
So as you're saying that, I've got Mark Jones saying Doctor No. I'm adding all these up, by the way. And Matrix Lord is saying Doctor Who. Sonny, is it Doctor Who? Was it Doctored Who? Or was it Doctor No?
I was hoping for like another minute to think. I'm torn between Doctor Who and Doctored Who because I I wouldn't call it Doctor No. I was pleasantly surprised. Like it's like this would have been a better like season 1 starter. Like it doesn't like a season 1 season 14 episode, it feels like instead of a season 2 season 15 type of episode. Like I don't see anybody jumping into this. Like I was able to jump into it and like kind of enjoy it because of
You jumped
the
out several times as well, though, didn't you?
yeah, but I only left twice. There was a point where I actually stood there and I actually finished it. So that's why I'm like it's doctored because it wasn't. But like I want to call it doctor just because it wasn't good, not necessarily because it was like vastly out of character for Doctor Who. But the only thing that was out of character was the Doctor. So like so it's like, is it doctored or it's Doctor Who? If the Doctor wasn't in it, like if Peter Davison was the Doctor, it would be Doctor Who. And I don't like Peter Davison. But like
Well,
I'm torn. So I'm torn.
most of my thread are actually saying no
Yeah.
way, Jose.
I think that's unfair.
Look at John Steed, Doctor No. How many did I add up? Is that 3 then? Yes, I'm actually, believe it or not, and I'm in the middle on this one on Doctor Who. I will explain an awful lot more as I go through. I've got 3 different types of review to kind of develop that, but there were elements of it when you think, you see, that's when my argument is, if this was a bit longer and done properly, there was an element of a Doctor Who story there.
It's classic, yeah.
My problem is, as Sonny said, that the Doctor's character was not recognizable. The way he responds, the way he talks, the way he dresses, his role in the episode. And of course, I am conveniently calling it Doctor Who because basically this is the new neutered version according to RTD, because we can't have him looking toxic. But I take what everybody's saying. There's an awful lot of no's. Peter Harrington, no. Marie, Dr. No creativity. I mean, I'm oh, there we go. David C, Dr. No balls. There's an awful lot of, I can I just say on that Dr. No balls, and I have to say I've got a serious point as well. In that story about a fighting oppression, revolution, rebellion, it's got all the sci-fi, key words there. Can I just say, I mean, he was a very nice looking man, Max Parker, Manny. And Manny is the classic representation of our lads and lasses who go to war. And they die. And they get maimed. And they get treated shabbily by most countries. And then you get the intelligentsia, the elite, who all have manners or say the right thing and espouse the right virtues in the right circles. And that was the Doctor. The Doctor and Belinda were having a chit-chat, and they were talking about why they liked each other, and they were trying to get on, and it was all that sort of stuff. But the Doctor was doing bot all. Right? He was useless as a rebel leader or anything. He was just the historian, that one. But meanwhile, the bloke with the pecs and the bloke with the guns behind him was the one who was going to be the one who would lead a rebellion and actually make a rebellion work. And I think while the progressives write stories like this and think, oh God, isn't it good? We're having a dig at men, and we're having a dig at war, and we're having a dig at whatever. The one thing that RTD missed completely is it was a very elitist argument. It was a very elitist viewpoint. Notice that the key actors in that story of any revolution and any rebellion are the soldiers. And they were dismissed with about 3 lines. And they were given some lines where she was a bit abrasive with them. And of course, the Doctor, just the gobby one, who doesn't do much else, but he might have manners. Oh, I apologize, Belinda. Oh, he gets all the lines. I have to say, RTD, we need to respect our veterans a bit more.
Did you see the end of the show at all?
Sorry?
Where Manny was saying goodbye and we're going to call this place name
Yes, Sasha, yeah, he was
55.
gonna, yeah,
He completely changed. He showed the deep qualities of these people. And I was most impressed by that. I thought it was an excellent piece of writing and an excellent piece of acting.
yeah. Oh,
Would have
well,
been nice if it
Simon.
was more than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Simon. He was
And it
given
should have
about,
been much more than 5 minutes.
yes, he was given about 8 lines, and in those 8
Mhm.
lines, he had apparently a big character transformation, but he was triggered.
Huge.
Yes. The whole point is, if you're going to write a story about oppression and rebellion and do a classic sci-fi one, the hero is not the Doctor or Belinda or any of those. It was him.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes,
And we-
yes. Same thing
I
in
was
Doctor
looking
Bubble,
at
wasn't it?
the action of the shootout in the throne room, and I'm thinking this has been going on now for months, years. They shoot shoot the robots all at the same time. That knowledge would have been in-house in everyone who had a weapon that probably had a role. We will have this many robots.
Yeah.
When we turn around, when we give the signal, we need to have at least 3 people strike, each one simultaneously, so we can take them out at the same moment without seeing our numbers decimated. So that struck me as poor writing, because it's all spectacle designed to clear the floor of a lot of characters, but was not
Mhm.
credible if you understand how combat works, especially with people who are veterans in that field.
I
And
presume
I
they
do not
weren't.
like the way the soldiers are so dismissed in this narrative. So in the end, when we got that epiphanal moment,
Yeah.
and he turned around, there was no buildup for it. There was no justification for it. There was no moment of connection between he and the Doctor, or he and specifically Belinda, which was the target of his ire. I'm sorry, it didn't work for me. It didn't play right for me.
I mean, going back to Simon's point and linking to what Christian's saying, we've got Sasha 55 there and Belinda. This is a revolution. This is a rebellion. And one of the people who died was Sasha 55. And one of the other war veterans, Manny, says we're going to name the citadel after her. Fine. She was also one of the fighters. But I have to say, it's classic, though, that the messaging is all very gender-driven by RTD. He knows exactly what he's doing. He must have a bean counter of gender and everything in his room. And the male fighters who are there as well, and we often find they still exist, there's no award for them. There's no kind of, nothing's named after them. And
Plaque, right.
it's a bit like seeing lots of statues now and everything, and we're trying to balance up. And we've got Rachel Reeves is saying, you know, I need to take all men off the wall and put women up and all the rest of it. There's this nonsense going on. But if we did a statistical analysis of how many people are in our armies still, it's mostly men still. You know?
And there was only one award around. We have no idea what happened when the TARDIS left. All the men and everybody else could well have been honored. And
But here's the catch, Simon. Simon is right, but here's the catch. If you don't see it on the screen, it didn't happen.
True.
That's the distinction. If you have to play mental games in order to say, I think this is what happened and this is what happened, then you're
being
good to
done
go.
by all
But
reviewers of this show.
shouldn't have to do
They
that.
come in seeing it initially as being a negative thing with badness leaking from every pore. I don't.
Simon,
On the contrary,
Simon,
I look from
remember,
the positive side.
well, you might be on the positive side, Simon. That's why we have you on. But the other thing, Simon, is RTD and the people who support him, you know, all the ones in the Twitterati, will always say they need to see representation on the screen. And I need to see representation of our male war veterans being rewarded, because they may feel as though they don't get noticed much by TV.
Boom did, didn't it? The
Who did?
husband father in Boom, he was represented extremely well, I thought,
Well,
as was his compatriot.
I'm going to throw a non-Doctor Who bit in here. Star Wars. No one represented the Wookiee, who never got an award after helping destroy the Death Star in this grand adventure So some
he
people
did.
just don't get recognized.
Yes, he did. He got his sash. He was on the stage with everybody else.
I do. I don't just make trite points just to kind of fill the space, but in a 45-minute story, everybody turns into almost just a symbol, and he is a symbol of the backbone of most countries' armies. And
Can I point out that this, as it's coming down, there was a very moving shot of another bloke coming down on the rope and being zapped down.
Yes.
That hit me. It was an excellent special effect, but it was a very powerful image, I thought.
And this is, and I made the point that the way the dialogue with Doctor and Belinda was going was almost like, as a gay man, there's that phrase fag hag used. So where basically you've got the gay man's best friend, right? And they're having a nice chit chat. Meanwhile, these men and women are fighting and risking their lives and doing the blood and guts and sweat behind the ones who are just waffling on and having a nice little chit chat. I found that an interesting disconnect in a 45-minute story where our hero is just chatting with his kind of, his gay best mate. Meanwhile, all these people are doing the hard yards.
Making good television. All these people are having a real adventure on another planet behind the scenes in a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're 100% right. And it's like, and we all know I'm the champion for the go back to the modern format, right? But this 45-minute format can work because we have Matt Smith and Capaldi stories where it's like there's one-off characters who you grow attached to because you see them do stuff. If he told the story in order and cut out all of the boring stuff and put in the stuff you were talking about, like, let's see the soldiers in the revolution of the army, of the robot army. Like, let's see the revolution. It would have been like an average, maybe even a good Doctor Who episode for 45 minutes.
There could have been a lot of editing, certainly, yes.
That was something I wanted to observe. I saw Matrix Lord's comment, and I thought, he's right. The episode is limited time. It can't detract from the major story. Then the episode needed to be expanded in length so that it could be a part of the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Everybody nowadays goes on about you must have representation. So I am just making the point, RTD. Maybe it's not trendy to talk about war veterans, especially ones who are male. But you have one on the screen. He ended up being a bit like Pex, in Paradise Towers. Because they had him dressed like Rambo, remember? And the girls took the mick out of him. I think everybody in the thread might remember Paradise Towers when it was a lot of girl gangs and they picked on the male Rambo, so to speak. And that was such a, that was the humor, which is men being attacked again.
That was a long time ago, though, wasn't it?
It is, but it seems to be a trend that comes here and there. We have to have a dig at men. But my point is, if it's a 45-minute story about rebellion, the interesting people are like rebel leaders. Aliens, the movie, did have characters dressed like him, looking like him, with Sigourney Weaver. But Sigourney Weaver wasn't nattering in the corner with a knitting pattern. She was actually also fighting and sweating and getting hurt. So it all matched up quite nicely that the men and the women were all guts and gore and getting involved. Whereas in this one, you had the intelligentsia nattering. Well,
I did not see that at all. Yeah. Which scene is that in?
What, when they were fighting behind and he's cowering and hiding with Belinda behind her?
Oh, right. Oh, I see. Yes, well, the Doctor doesn't have a gun for a start. Belinda didn't have a gun either. How would they do any of that? And the point was to keep Belinda safe so that she could get out.
Yeah, and everybody else is... but this is my point about elitism, and everybody else is collateral damage.
Yeah. Well, that is what war is, isn't it?
Yeah, but we don't do a story about them, do we? They're the ones we don't write about. It has to be Doctor Who.
It has to be a longer show. as has been
Well,
pointed out many
well, I would
times.
to kind of follow up on what Brendan was saying, as well as what Simon is saying. Aliens was 2 hours long, and you had a full cast of about 12 Marines. And interestingly enough, in the context of that 2 hour window of time, all of their personalities came to the surface.
There's
They all
vastly
had a
less
moment
plot.
to shine. Most of them had some kind of arc. Some of them were short, some of them were longer. But do we have a chance to really follow that level of development with the backdrop of the rebel fighters because of the duration of a 45-minute episode, half of which was building up to this one moment? And you don't get that opportunity. And so basically, all of the fighters are ciphers. They're stand-ins that are designed to be taken out to show how dangerous the scenario is, but don't have any deeper narrative purpose. And the audience can't really connect with them on that level because we don't get to see them as full personalities.
That was our first scene with them. Was them all getting shot in that
Yeah.
area. We had no other scenes with them because the story wasn't about them. Like, and
It was. I mean, honestly, I haven't even started my analysis, and that'll come tomorrow night. But you know, when this chap here who that RTD thought we needed a line where she was a bit frosty knickers with him. He was helping an injured colleague. By the way, the doctor and Belinda just ran. They looked after themselves. He was obviously pulling an injured soldier, in other words, going slower. And did you notice the doctor's line? He told him to hurry up and get in there so they could do that,
transport. Yeah.
And I have to say,
anybody else to bring though. All the others were dead.
Yeah, no, but this is the story of Simpson's donkey. He could have that fella there who we needed a line where Belinda tells him off. He was helping an injured soldier. The doctor wasn't. He's the hero.
Pointing out it was important that they moved quickly because the robots were directly behind. I saw nothing wrong in that at all.
Well, remember, she's the one who actually brought the robots back as well. So, you know, while all them people were dying for her, later on she decided to change the whole thing and pull the robots there. She's no hero. She's now the blooming companion, and okay, people have flaws. But I'm just saying,
robots broke in after she turned on polish. Nobody was killed that I noticed.
Well, that's luck.
Because she told them to stop them.
Oh, well.
She said, put up your guns.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. It's the argument that people can stop wars with words. Meanwhile, that's a load of baloney. These people are being used as pawns all the time, but there's no stories about them, no awards, no nout. And RTD thinks it's much more interesting for the people who use little words in wars.
Words will stop wars. That's why we have negotiations.
It's words that start them as well.
It most certainly is, yes. And by the way, and they're all fought because of the reduction in the availability of natural resources.
Yeah, but it's normally politicians like Doctor Who and Belinda nattering away that starts wars, starts rebellions, and yes, maybe finishes them eventually. And in the meantime, all the people like him are the ones who die and get injured in the meantime. But we're not going to write a story about him.
I guess I would follow up with what Sonny pointed out. We only had a few minutes with them. But if you look at, again, going back to Aliens, we only had a few minutes with several characters. And even in those few minutes, you got something about them that gave them a personality. But this goes, again, back to a 45-minute story versus 90 minutes or versus 3 episodes of an installment where you actually see the developing rebellion on that world, and you get a deeper look at a number of the characters and actually get a better sense of the significance that the Doctor played or that Belinda plays in a more positive light than the one we got. Because of the way that they shortchanged all the characters.
Well, in the short period of time they had, we saw everybody in khaki slowly bringing their knives to play. Nobody did not. That was a powerful. We are all fighting together in this thing. And the other point I was going to go has now gone from my head. But I think it's looking at it in the.
Sonny,
There's the pragmatism of what you can do in the time.
however,
And
I don't.
what
Yes,
you can
look,
go forward.
I'm not arguing with you, Simon. Don't worry. But the issue is, he RTD invents these rules. He decides to have the short format. So I'm not going to give him an easy wicket. He's the one who waffles on about representation, and he's the one who wants 45-minute episodes. Put the two together, and your representation is flippant and superficial. That's my point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Now, Sonny, I was going to say, kind of cool here says the Doctor's never had a gun. He's famous, yes, I know, but he got heavily involved in Genesis of the Daleks, Caves of Androzani. He was extremely brave. This Doctor cries every story is pathetic. What I wanted to say, Sonny, is I'm wondering if we're hitting a point with Doctor Who that when RTD with the Disney budget wants to show more battle sequences and, you know, they can show off robot lasers and do all that behind them. And I know Remembrance of the Daleks and other ones have done it in the past a bit. The Doctor never using a gun, is it starting to look a bit more problematic as a position? Because everybody in that scene, as Simon said, had a gun. Everybody else was fighting, but the Doctor actually, since in this iteration, the Doctor doesn't do much. He's pretty indecisive. He's a historian. But that's it. Belinda is the one who solves the thing in the end again. So basically, if this story is called Doctor Who, when everybody else is using weapons and fighting and doing stuff, he isn't doing much. And so I think that disconnect, Sonny, is starting to worry me more and more. We all know that the classic Doctor didn't use a gun, didn't use a weapon. But I think it's starting to look a lot more problematic because of the fact that this Doctor doesn't do anything. He doesn't even use his brain.
It shows how bad of a Dr. Gatwa is, because you're like, wouldn't it just be more interesting if you gave him a gun at this point? And it's like, dude, the Doctor's interesting because he's the cleverest person in the room and he gets in all these fights without weapons and he comes out unscathed most of the time, right? So it's like he should be able to do anything, like hijack a robot to help fight the other robots or put up a force field. I don't know, do something. But like you said, it just proves how bad of an actor I think Gatwa is and how he can't play the Doctor and he's overdoing it and it's bad. It's just he's the worst.
A good actor. I don't think he's been written for properly. Again,
I agree with.
Watch the close up of his face as his opinion changes on a subject. There's a heck of a lot of subtlety going on in those faces.
I think, Simon, the point is you've got to write good stories for the character. If there's a potential for Gatwa to perform better and actually perform as the Doctor, you've got to have the material to work with. At the same time, as Brendan is saying, the way the stories are constructed, they don't give him a chance to use his intelligence in a way that shows agency. For example, he's been there. What if during his time there, he was able to access and rewire one robot to serve as a diversion to help them get out with much less loss of life?
He was there for months.
He was fiddling with a large number of post office jacks at one point. I noticed. Yes, a large number. I used to wire the things, and we don't know what he was doing there. He could have made some point about that.
He wasn't doing anything, Simon.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you've got Super John here. It's RTD that is writing the Doctor. It's RTD who's doing the 45-minute format. It's RTD who wants to forward a lot of different types of representation. But already tonight, I've made a point about the veterans. Rachel's made a point about, I thought disability and evil could not be conflated, but we're back. you know, honestly, it seems to be a bit of a hodgepodge episode if we're all about messaging and virtue signaling.
But
Yeah.
we're not. It's an entertainment show.
It should be, but RTD has made it
I
his
was
platform.
entertained.
He's
Is
made
it an entertainment show that you can't talk about? Because after
We
talking
are.
about it now, I was really mid on this episode. I was gonna try to pull out some good things to say for a lot of it, but after talking about it now, I'm actually really down on it now. I'm like, actually, this episode kind of sucked, and I
Don't
didn't like
watch
the
it
story.
again.
I
Don't
was
watch it
like, as I
before
think
without
of
going out.
Well, this is where I come back, and I'm so glad that Simon enjoyed it. But I always come back to
So
the
am
broader
I.
picture, which is how many people share Simon's feelings.
Yeah.
If 12 million viewers say this was the best thing since sliced bread, you know you've hit a home run. If you've got just 2 million watching it, then somehow there's a disconnect between what RTD, Bad Wolf, and the BBC intended and the results they got. I wonder what happened.
There are lots of people like us saying horrible things about the show before we see it, and people like RTD and interviewers making people say damn fool things online all over the place. There's too much exposure before the show, too much talk about it, and it damages everything. Spoilers everywhere in
there's so much to say about the trailers. I mean, I think Christian, you wrote to me earlier, and that whole pre-credit sequence had been trailered already. Joy to the World was the same. When you saw the dinosaur and various bits, the whole pre-credit sequence of Joy to the World had been trailered. And there is an absolute, this is starting to get ridiculous. We could cope with Earthshock and we didn't know the Cybermen were in it. And actually JNT and the BBC were brave enough not to actually think they had to desperately trailer something within the inch of its life to make sure there was somebody sat there watching it. Honestly, I think this is imperiling the program in another way.
Yeah.
Too much marketing to the point where I don't think there was any. I have to say, I collected all the shots, and my detox has started to look at me like, where have you got all these photographs from, Brenda? I said, well, they're there. They're available. I just stitched them together. It was almost like doing telesnaps. I could almost guess the episode. And I'm trying to think, the only thing that I didn't know was that the boyfriend was going to be in at the end. That's it. That's it. And so it's a shocker. Now, De Morpin here says the glee, and this is the other thing I have to say, when you talk about representation, you talk about messaging, the gleeful laughter at the fate of the guy being annihilated and swept up was very pointed and very familiar. I still struggle with, I don't know how we let the Margaret Slitheen off and then the doctor laughed. He did not care that that lad had now died and did not exist.
Well, that was a moment that Brenda could have corrected him in a meaningful way. I know he did something terrible, but he wasn't all bad. I need to see his parents.
That was her boyfriend.
This is the doctor who, in The Witch's Familiar, when he saw the young Davros, he thought he had a chance to change him. Hello, remember this? And now the same doctor, apparently, I've got to believe that the same doctor isn't going to give that one lad a chance. In other words, this lad is worse than Davros.
What could he possibly have done with an isolated egg and sperm on the floor to revivify the creature from that? And he did not put him there in the first place.
No, but he laughed.
I was like, he could have not laughed.
And I thought that was pretty much embarrassment and relief.
The doctor laughing at somebody not. The doctor always was sad at certain moments happening, sad that certain villains.
I agree. Yeah.
The doctor was sometimes sad for the master in prison, felt sorry if the master didn't exist. The doctor has sympathy for foes and villains because he's a decent hero and he's got morals.
The doctor said every ninth word, look what he said, and they strung together the words and basically saying, I'm in pain.
So this lad who was in pain has now no longer exists, and our great doctor hero is gleefully going, right, next, whatever.
this
Well, I've
lad
explained
who
that.
was kidnapped 10 years ago and then got basically drunk with power and then AI augmented. He's as much as a victim as any other person on that planet. And nobody tried to help him. They're just like,
No.
no, he's a villain, he's evil. Oh well. Bye.
Look at Rachel. Look at Rachel here. I had issues with the doctor laughing at the end, yet he grieved his loss of his friend Sasha 55, and Belinda comforted him. Yeah, you
that's
see,
a woman.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You see,
Yeah.
I
Very
didn't think
human, though, isn't it?
it. Yeah, but he's
RTD
not a
is
human, no.
selective.
He's half
RTD is
human.
selective about who he has sympathy for and who he has no sympathy for. And we know who those people are.
Yeah, it's just evil. Like
Sometimes.
and
Sometimes.
you're yeah, but it's not genuine. It's like it, what you say doesn't work. It doesn't hold up because you're clearly contradicting yourself in the same 45 minutes. And it's like, why? It doesn't work. It
Now-
makes you look like a hack.
Now,
He wasn't, the doctor wasn't in control of the end of that.
who writes the
He's not in
episode?
control of his
No,
Now,
well, no, that's perfectly true. Yes, yes. Why
What I
did RTD
what I want to
write
say,
it like
hold
that?
on. What I want, I've got the classifications here, and I just want to
Go on,
introduce them quickly for everybody. You've got U for Universal, so I want everybody in the thread and everybody on the panel to go, right, okay.
Yes.
If you're making this DVD cover, knowing this episode, and I've found some problems with it, would you say it's U for Universal? Would you say it's V for Virtuous? Would you say C, it's good for children? Would you say F, it's good for the fans? Would you say T, it's good for teenagers? Would you say it's W, it's good for woke? Would you say P, progressive? And then the two X's are not for children, not for fans. It's cheeky, but I'm just trying to say, and I know you may forget some of them, but Christian, what were your thoughts on how you might classify it?
WCXFX. It's very quick and easy. Progressive is basically a reasonable message-laden story, but it's not over the top. If it's woke, that means you've gone so far down the rabbit hole of identity politics or some kind of political messaging that you damage the story. So it qualifies as woke, and it's definitely not for children. How are you going to explain to kids about coercive control?
And incels.
Someone's going to ask about that. They're going to ask about the egg and the sperm on the floor that are being mopped up. You're going to discuss that with your 5-year-old child. Is it for the family for the same reason? No.
Well, we've got, just before I come to Sonny, people are helping me out here.
That's a good one.
I think Mike Disney, I think you're being cheeky, aren't you? But
And
anyway,
it works.
I'll note it down, but FUCT. I think Lee Smith, lovely. Zed, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
What about Good for Nothing, says Squinty Mint. Rachel says not for children. I'll ask her tomorrow night exactly why, but that's for tomorrow night. Rob Fellows has a different version. We did that at the beginning, Rob. WTF. Paul Richards says, do you know, this is me and Christian as teachers, we know this pretty well. You know, you have a mark criteria that might be 16 pages long, and then somebody invents a new bit. Paul Richards, I'll classify it as crap. That's a new one. So we've got a few different versions there. So Sonny, what are you going to judge it as, do you reckon, classify wise?
Give it a P for progressive. There's definitely elements in there. It doesn't go far enough to destroy the story because RTD does that in a different way. C with the X, not for children, obvious reasons. And then I give it F and F with an X because it's clearly made for the fans. Well, because it's clearly made for the fans, right? F, there's a progressive story, beginning, middle, end. It's gonna connect to the next bit, but like no fan is gonna actually like it because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it has elements of like Doctor Who, but doesn't go all the way. It makes you want it in the classic format because like this would be a classic story if we focused on the right characters. But at the same time, it also insults the fans, calling them incels if you don't agree with it.
That was never said.
Emphasizing the companion and not the doctor being the worst character in the story for some reason, and the only character you'll like will die. So
Yeah. Well, just
it's
before I
just
come to, I mean, it's fascinating. This, I think, is another way of just looking at it. You see, I know some people always say numbers, but I think there's so many ways we can judge this episode. Tomboy chick, not for children. I wouldn't want to explain to a young child what sperm is and take away some of their innocence. And on a similar point, Lee Smith said, "I hope my 9-year-old autistic nephew didn't watch it." I have to say, and some of my teacher friends, and one of them's on the panel tomorrow night, was saying, incels. I had to look it up. I have to say,
So did I.
Planet of the Incels.
No idea what that was until I looked it up. Yeah.
Now, I know I've made the argument that in Genesis of the Daleks, I had to look up words as well, but the words like genocide and stuff like that. But incels is a more, we're going down a different rabbit hole.
It's been invented recently.
It is a different rabbit hole because he wasn't even an incel. She was his boyfriend. He wasn't even an incel. Like incel implies. Yeah, right. And then she claims the whole planet. It doesn't even make sense. Like it doesn't. What did the rebels do? Are they incels?
No,
so Sarah 55 was an incel.
In fact, it was like, basically fascistically controlled by robots, which had very much male testosterone type driving forces behind them because of his unpleasantness.
That was her.
His deep misogyny. That was the story as I read it.
Well. As I come to that, I mean, I'm coming to you, Simon. Don't worry. Rachel, imagine a child asking what's coercive control. The parent explains, and days later, when the child is disciplined, the child could say that the parent is using coercive control. The dangers of explaining to children sometimes, I know. Coercive control, toxic masculinity, and misogyny, and various things that you're talking about there. In Doctor Who, you have to say that's kind of sexual politics. It's relationship dynamics. It's very soap opera. It's very kind of. I'm not too sure at all that we really needs to be going down that rabbit hole at all. But Simon, over to you on what you would classify it as.
Well, I think it's virtuous to try to go down that rabbit hole. I think it's educational for children to be exposed to that sort of thing. Most of them would not pick up on those bits that are rightly very questionable. But if they did pick up on them, they'd probably have a degree of intellect enough to be able to understand an answer if it was properly phrased. That Doctor Who is an educational type of thing. It leads people in the direction of leading better lives and shows how it can be done. At least it has done since 1963.
So we've got a few different judgments there. The last one before I move on, though, folks, is obviously on every pack of a DVD cover or something.
I've killed the word again, haven't I?
The Savages recently, as people know, if I did the detox on Friday, the Savages had a trigger warning. That you had treatment of different species on the same planet. So coming round again to the thread and to the panel, are there any particular trigger warnings we need to put on this DVD front cover, Christian, for Robot Revolution?
Definitely not for the intended audience. Take that as you will. Not for the intended audience. They think they have their target audience. It's not for them. I don't know who this is for.
Yes, I feel I watched it. I wasn't shouting at it like Space Babies and Devil's Card or Rogue. So there were elements where I thought, do you know what? If I was a kid and this was a 4-episode story, I would probably just be watching this and it would digest. The snag is when it's wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It's more triggering because basically the message is therefore more blunt. There's no nuance. There's no time for development. And that's when I think, I mean, some of the reviews said he's on the button, he's on the nose. And unfortunately, yeah. if you want to sell a lecture, if you want to preach, if you want to educate, there's different versions of that word, I know. If you want to make people change their mind and learn, you need to develop each character. You need to do a kind of Malcolm Hulk. You cannot just go bang like that. It doesn't work. It gets people's backs up. It causes a backlash. So now, just before I come to you, Sonny, on what trigger warnings you think are there, thank you very much, Michael Nemo. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Just to be fair, Androzani and Blink aren't for children either. They're just written well and basically 1 and 2 stories ever. Caves of Androzani, not for kids. I was a teenager, a younger teenager. I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled by Caves of Androzani. There was an element of how the Sharazjek spoke to Perry in that kind of layer when I realized slightly was above my kind of age really was there's a bit of there was a bit of sexual dynamics going on, and the way he kind of hinted that the Doctor being the spare male could be eliminated, there was something adult going on there. I could see it, but I loved it, absolutely loved it. Anyway, Sonny, trigger warnings.
Trigger warnings. I had one, and then I started thinking about Caves of Androzani because I was like, "Yeah, you're happy that Peter Davison was regenerating, yeah." But no, what was I gonna say? Sorry,
while you're thinking, kind of
yeah.
cool is saying people are worried about the messages being sold to the kids. This is getting more worrying for people. Lee Smith is concerned. Look, we all have opinions, but I know Lee Smith is saying, do you really want kids to be watching this? The story with an adventure, fine. Yeah. It's just, I think the worry is there's a lot of sexual politics in Doctor Who now. There's an awful lot of identity politics, not today per se, but yeah. What were you going to say, Simon?
I was going to say that outside of Doctor Who, every other television program is vastly more violent, vastly more sexually orientated, and nobody's talking about those at all. Doctor Who gives answers, makes people question. The other ones just put it there as an entertainment. So I completely disregard those negative comments made in my direction.
See, just to follow up on what Simon is suggesting, he's right. A lot of other shows do this on a much grander scale. The question is, who are the audiences of those other shows?
Anybody who turns the television on, there's no stopping it.
Yeah.
I think Rachel's going to be well worth watching her streams on this, and she's going to be well worth on my panel tomorrow night. The thing is, they didn't need to say it was coercive control. You can see just from watching what it was. It didn't need woman-splaining. There's a lot of terms that are coming in that I actually think are very cheekily and flippantly undermining in different ways. And I think you're right on it, Rachel, there. I see what you're saying, Simon, about lots of things, but there's an awful lot of questions we're asking from this 45-minute story.
Oh, yes.
And we're asking questions, and we're asking some pertinent questions. Of course, RTD, I haven't watched Unleashed. I'll be fascinated what he waffles on about in there.
I didn't think there was an Unleashed for this episode.
It came out today. It came out maybe right before we went live, maybe an hour before, maybe.
Yeah. So Mr. Squinty Mint says the trigger warning, it may contain rehashed material. Yeah, I know. Kinda Cole thinks this is leftist propaganda trash. This program is made by an ideologue who wants to manipulate.
And that's what I was.
Yeah, go on.
That's what I was gonna say though, because if he said it was the show's like meant to teach or whatever, that was when they were actually talking about history. Now he literally changes history. So like the only thing they're teaching is progressive propaganda basically, and if you don't agree with it, it's not education. If you do agree with it, some might say you're brainwashed. So I just think that's not fair. I also have
I agree with it. I don't think it's brainwashing. I think it's educational. There you go. I'm agreeing, folks.
It's just as that. I mean, obviously on my week of walk with Rachel, which we will bring back. It's just, you know, while we're busy with all our streams over the Doctor Who season and other stuff. I have to say that this, I've got it on screen now from Deadman. I do think this. We discussed recently Juno Dawson doing episode 6, and we, you know, Rachel particularly looked at Juno Dawson's books, which are very explicit for the kids they're written for. Now, the episode might be very different, but what we're saying is, and RTD had some sexual jokes in the very first one, The Church on Ruby Road. He has little sexual jokes here and there that I actually don't think should be in Doctor Who.
I agree.
And on the same format, I'm saying, talking about sperm and eggs, you know, I'm not a Puritan, and you know, but the point is, I think that's quite alarming for younger kids to be aware that, you know, where we come from. And if you actually were explained where we come from, to then realize that the tiniest atom he is turned back into, that's nightmarish. And the Doctor laughs. I think RTD is too aware of his adult self and adult sexual jokes and adult sexual talk, and he's forgetting this is still for kids as well.
As I pointed out, I think kids who would be disturbed by that wouldn't notice that.
Well, you've got to hope they don't notice the language, but I noticed the word genocide in Genesis. I noticed the word insubordination in Genesis, and I didn't know what it meant.
All the other television programs, this is a balance against them.
I don't know. I think you're giving him a lot of credit, and he doesn't. I'm not sure if he really deserves it. I think he'd like you to say that because he wants you to say, "Oh, look at all them boxes ticked."
I would like him to succeed. I don't think he does very often.
Yeah. What was it, Sonny?
So he can dodge accountability. The audience isn't what he says it is. The audience is himself. The audience is the actors, even, maybe, right? Just his friends, people he want to indulge, right? And if that doesn't include you, you get a bad Doctor Who episode. If that does include you, you didn't like Doctor Who to begin with, and you got an average soap opera episode.
I have to agree with you, which you may find surprising. But yes, you're right.
Well, Christian here, Mr. Squinty Mint, says, I can't see anyone being happy with the messaging, whatever their views about male toxicity. It doesn't say anything about it. It's just inserted into the dialogue.
This goes back to good writing. You can write subtle messaging, or you can write ham-fisted, poorly constructed messaging, which is so on point that there's no nuance, there's no subtlety, there's no opportunity for a different take on something. They're killing the story with heavy-handed messaging.
I think the program was hacked by somebody. It's so many holes.
AI.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It probably wrote half the script.
AI.
It does feel as if there's so many issues we haven't really addressed, which make the storyline just fail. I mean, the 2 missing episodes in the middle.
The other thing
would be filled with stuff that would be necessary to make the rest of it actually hold together properly.
Did we see?
We have to do the work.
Did
we should have had to do the work?
Did we see enough of the Doctor?
No.
The Doctor has no silhouette that's recognizable. I mean,
Correct.
Look, it can look like the Time Machine, where they're all in pastel shades in the future, but it's very kind of pacifist and very bland. But the Doctor doesn't look like the Doctor.
Bland?
Sorry?
What was pacifist and bland in the future? All we see is walls.
No, I was using a literary reference from H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. When the Eloi sit on rocks eating fruit because they're cattle to be eaten by the Morlocks. So they're very pathetic, passive. And when I see everybody in these pastels, okay, it's part of the sci-fi world, but it's not explained or anything. But the Doctor should stand out. The Doctor should be different. The Doctor, I don't know. He's got no silhouette, and that's.
No, I agree, Brendan. This does bother me. I think we talked about it with the first season he was in it. a different outfit every episode. If you look at any of the backdrop caricatures of the previous Doctors, they all had a silhouette. You know, oh, that's the third Doctor. Oh, that's the eighth Doctor. It was obvious. What silhouette are you going to point to and say, that's clearly the 15th Doctor?
Even his
There's
hair
no
changes.
clear silhouette.
There you go.
He doesn't have an identity.
These are the costumes for this season.
Yeah.
Shows off his chest. Can I just say that when he's in his bowler hat and pinstripe suit, that's not cultural appropriation, is it?
No, not at all.
Smart, I think.
Yeah.
I'd never be seen dead in a suit, but there you go.
I'm just saying because RTD's been teaching me and educating me on what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and obviously the evil trope and wheelchairs and everything, Davros, you know. And I've learned from Pyramids of Mars that you can't have cultural appropriation and the Egyptology thing, and so I'm just fascinated at that bowler hat and the pinstripe suit. It's not, is it? I mean, that would be terrible if it was cultural appropriation.
Let's see
Not
what
when
the
RTD
show
does
with it.
As they say, cultural appropriation only goes one way.
Yeah.
It doesn't go the other way.
Yes. And this is what I mean. I'm a stickler for this. I really am. I'm almost OCD on it. If somebody says something to me, if somebody quotes something to me, they'll find it's thrown back at them if necessary, if logic is lost, if consistency is lost. If you're consistent,
Got away with it so far.
Consistency I can cope with. Inconsistency, well, I mean, inconsistency is human nature. But what I'm saying is, if you're arguing with me, don't be inconsistent and don't be illogical, and don't, you know, that's when I throw it back. And unfortunately, RTD, who likes to platform a lot, so many holes. Rachel, the costume keeps changing, but for the promo, they keep coming back to that one coat. The only thing that changes is his shirt and trousers. And remember, Rachel, the costume designer, Pam Downs, was told to do gender pushing, societal pushing outfits. Michael Nemo's been very generous and very kind. Thank you very much. A skirt gives off a definitive silhouette. I'm trying to work out whether that's good or bad.
It's not a skirt, though. It's a kilt.
No, it's not. He's not Jamie.
Really?
He's not Jamie. It's a skirt.
Okay.
The thing is, whether people say kilt, skirt, or whatever, that's obviously in the British Isles, we would have a definition of that. But this is supposed to be Doctor Who going global. And so many cultures will say that's a man wearing a dress.
Mm-hmm.
They won't say, oh, that's a kilt or anything like that. They won't have the British sensitivity. So if you're going to go global with your brand, you need to make sure that the messaging is careful, that you're not showing a man wearing a dress, basically, without it being explained.
Doctor Who's supposed to be British, and that isn't. I agree with you.
Yeah, this is what I mean. I just think that they're running before they can walk. They're not squaring all the, you know, they're not dotting all the I's or anything. That's the thing.
Right.
Now,
I have my trigger warning, by the way, too, whenever we can get back to it.
Yeah, I apologize. Did I miss it?
No, you're good. It's not that big of a deal.
Go on then.
My trigger warning is Classic Who warning, because it's going to make you want to watch Classic Who. It has all the elements of Classic Who. It makes you want an extra episode in the Classic Who format. You're just like, why am I watching this for 45 minutes when I can actually watch a Classic Who episode?
So that's a really nice warning, a trigger warning.
Yeah, that's a perfect word. That's what I want to see.
Oh, I've been missing Classic Who, so I buy this DVD to make me want. Yeah, it inspires me.
There you go. That's a winner.
Yeah, it's a winner. I've bought it.
You all know that every single episode of Doctor Who has now been recreated, all the lost ones, courtesy of Ian Levine and his band of brilliant AI manipulators. Brendan's looking worried.
Well, I've got more to actually discuss here. So if everybody's up for it, are you ready for this one? Okay. Our great friend, the guru of Doctor Who, the showrunner, the savior, RTD himself. How's that rescue plan going, RTD? Let's have a think.
Mayday, mayday, emergency, emergency.
Mhm.
I'm being slightly cheeky, but you know that you expect that from me. But basically, how is the RTD rescue roadmap going and his Operation Enlightenment? Because we're now well into his second era. His great master plan is now playing out in front of us. So, Christian, are you seeing how brilliant it is and how successful it is? I mean, how well is this
Well,
rescue roadmap going?
I would say he is absolutely brilliant at transforming Doctor Who from what it was into something completely different. Now, if the definition is, will it save the show? Well, that's a different kettle of fish. I mean, if you can go from 12 million viewers overnight to 2 million, that suggests that something's a little bit wrong. Maybe I'm being unfair here.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. You're saying that he's basically very, very conveniently, in a matter of 12, 13 episodes, turned Doctor Who into something completely different. I'm thinking he's turned Doctor Who into something that his skill set can cope with. He's a soap opera writer. He's not a sci-fi writer. He's now turned it into a soap opera, but with robots and stuff like that. He's made it the most expensive EastEnders you could. But actually, when we do the comparison, and I've had some decent friends in the thread writing to me as well, saying, Brendan, when you do the ratings watcher this year, as in tomorrow night, can you compare to the soap operas as well? Because, to be fair, because of this element, and I will try and do that. Now, the soap operas are getting around 2 to 3 million. So I suppose fair dues is Doctor Who getting 2 to 3 million. But if it's getting the same number, EastEnders is a lot cheaper. So hello. I think RTD turning it into EastEnders in space with a Disney budget is not a very clever rescue roadmap myself. No. Sonny, what do you reckon on this one? How is his rescue roadmap going? I mean, you now see what he's trying to do. You can see what his overall plan is with the Doctor and the TARDIS and this series. Are you buying it?
Kind of, but not for the right reasons. Sure, there's a story there. It's not being developed, not in the way I need it to be for a 45-minute, 8-episode season. You can tell where his priorities are. The best looking things in the episodes were like that scene where Belinda's like becoming a robot for a little bit as like, hey, look at what we're gonna turn you into. Like that looks cool. And the scene with the different timelines, parallel Earths thing, which is like that's a cool idea. We might get the alternate dimension, right? Like story wise, there's something here. I don't trust him as a writer to pull it off. If you're gonna turn it into a soap opera show and now we get soap opera views, but the budget is still going up, that doesn't make sense. It's like as a rescue roadmap, that's not what this sounds like to me.
Nah.
So I'm not buying it.
Simon, the contrarian.
I can't be contrarian on that. No, I mean, he's not rescuing it. He's put too many people's backs up by saying stupid things in all the wrong places, talking too much, pissing off his actors so they say stupid things, allowing marketing which is completely wrong, and not countering anything that's said that could be considered even faintly negative. I think he's really mishandling it.
Yes, and I think we all have done a stream already. I did one on Thursday night with Christian talking about his misspeaking. It must have been misspeaking when he told Newsround that it was pausing and it won't die. And no, all I'd said is a season 3. We've heard all the rumors. We've heard stuff that whether he's still around and all the rest of it. But I think he's a busted flush. I really do. I think he's had enough time. You see, as you know, I run in parallel as a football fan. And you have to give a manager enough time to change the style of football, to coach the players, and to and maybe get some of their personnel in. So you need to give them half a season or whatever. Now, he's now had well over half a season. He's had 8 episodes, 2 Christmas specials, and now we're into this one. And, and the 3 specials as well.
3 specials.
Yeah. He's had plenty of time to right the ship, sort things out after Chibnall, re-establish Doctor Who. And what has he got? People ridiculing it in the media, Dr. Woke. People questioning whether it's getting silly. People laughing at it. People not watching it. Children.
And then talking about it as if they had, which I find particularly irritating.
Yeah. Children not watching it. I don't know how many teacher friends I've got who say in school they don't mention Doctor Who.
No, you heard that from me. I've got 120 students, 130 students. None of them watch it. None. And yet I was teaching a similar population 15 years ago, and they were all watching it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is it, the Great Rescue Roadmap. So where do you think this season's heading from what you saw tonight, folks, with the Robot Revolution? Did it actually give you
wrong with the program itself? I think the show is fine. I think everything attached to it is not. I think the show could stand up by itself quite well if it wasn't dissected and thrown to the wolves every 5 seconds, even before it's shown. People would watch it to make their own decision rather than say, this is not worth watching, I won't.
You've got to... I can never, Christian, go back... I could forget, the 3 specials, because he took on the world with those 3 specials. We had the pronoun debate, the female presenting Time Lord. We had the Destination Skaro nonsense about Davros. After 3 specials and a little kind of, children in need skit, he really, really said, I'm declaring war on you Doctor Who fans. And we are where we are.
I think that's very much the case. And that's why the resolution of Alan Budd's fate in this and how that character was handled irritates me probably more than just about anything else, because I've said this before. Previously, he was trying to push a message and attack the general values of a broad section of the viewership. Now he's turning around and saying, I'm going to declare war on you virtually by name.
Yeah.
Because I know who disapproves of what I've done, and I don't approve of your disapproval, and I'm going to stick it to you. And that's what he did. So narratively speaking.
And I will go as far as to say, I think he's used Doctor Who to be the sacrificial lamb for his cowardice from actually going into politics.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to make a political message, but he cannot be bothered to become a politician. So he does the cowardly move, which is not to seek voters, but just to kind of suck it to them, that bang. But he's taken and captured Doctor Who and used it as that platform and wrecked it. And really, and, as Simon tries his best to say, there was some entertainment there. There was some entertainment there. And I have to say, on the production values, I was thinking Doctor Who, honestly, I think that scene where you had the AI generator and they were walking in and all that lightning electric was everywhere. And I thought, gosh, Doctor Who, that's a room I've not seen before in Doctor Who. They've got the money's there. They can do it. They just need the right stories now. They can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it disappoints me, because I think if this era does end, if the rescue plan fails, RTD had the money. He just had to have the ideas.
He had too much money.
Yeah.
All he's managed to do is to make a fine version, not a great show. Fine is not good enough for Doctor Who.
It isn't when it was lame under Chibnall. It needed a savior. It needed a redemption. I mean, Sonny, when you look at this season, from what you saw in Robot Revolution, are you full of optimism regarding you've got Mrs. Flood, you've got the hint of this force field thing that there's a time parallel or something going on? Is there promise there for you?
You gotta remember how I'm coming into this season. I didn't watch season 1 because I believe the solution to all this is to not support them, right? If they see the show really tanks, like it tanks as much as they can, that's the only way they're gonna change. You have to mess with their money. But me coming into this season 2, only seeing one episode of this prior, and I'm only judging it on what I've seen. This would have been like actually like a really good season 1 opener. I feel like almost, and then like I would have had like the promise of, oh, this season's gonna be like a long arc. It has sci-fi elements. It involved different dimensions. All that stuff's cool, but they're putting the cart before the horse because Doctor Who has never been. It's never been popular for visuals ever in its career. So like when that's the best part of your Doctor Who episode, you're not doing it right. Like you're alienating the fans, like you said. We didn't nobody came to Doctor Who for these things.
I must at this point duck out, and I've gone
all right.
past my ability point.
Okay. Well, thank you very much,
ladies and gentlemen. I wish
you later then. Bye for now.
A lot of fun.
I was going to say, Christian, if you mentioned Genesis of the Daleks as a mention, linking to what Sonny was saying then, the set was a classic BBC studio that had coloured lights to look like searchlights or that explosions were going off. It was like a blue tinge. And you had some sandbags and a bit of a bunker, didn't you? You had, I mean, the bunker was just kind of plain corridors, really. But I think the thing that RTD and Disney's money are not allowing for is a kid's imagination, where basically you give us the colours, you give us the lighting, you give us a corridor, we'll fill in the blanks. We don't need, as Sonny said, all that money.
Precisely. Well, but that's a weakness that Disney itself has. They think as they put productions together and they don't look good in rushes and they don't get a good pre-screening response, that we're going to go ahead and scrapbook and spend more money and create more digital effects and make it bigger. Bigger is not the same thing as better. And it's the same thing they've done with Doctor Who. They poured money into it. We can see some of the effects of money, but we aren't seeing the money where it counts, which is hiring good writers and giving them the time to craft meaningful, effective stories in tune with the series as it's designed to be and in keeping with its canon. There's nothing like that.
And so that's why it's so disappointing that we're where we are when he's got more control than any producer. He's got more money than any producer in Doctor Who before. He's even got a different title. And he's actually got the BBC willing it on, which they never always were. He's got everything in his corner. How come I mean, I know the ratings will come out tomorrow and all the rest of it, but the point is, I know where we are here. You know where we are here. If this was the launch pad for the season, and as you said, Sonny, it was much better than Space Babies, of course. Not as good as 11th Hour, of course. I did think in parts it was all right, but what I mean by all right is I could see the potential.
Right.
I really loathe those pre-credit sequences. If they're not like Unquiet Dead, where you have a kind of a zombie woman going towards the camera, then stuff it. Just get on with the blooming titles and start the story. But don't give me quiche pop music, quick edits. And really, I know I could just kind of have my tea then, because that's the moment it's just been flippant. No jeopardy.
No jeopardy.
Because that moment in the garden, Sonny, what did you think of that? You had two fellas on one side, maybe they're gay, you know. They always have to wave flags. So maybe there were two fellas at night in one garden, and then Mrs. Flood in the other garden, and she has all that script to say, tell so and so the cat's gone missing. Tell so and so, tell my mum. Tell so and so. I thought, what? Oh, I'm apparently the queen, and I thought,
Yeah,
we need to cut this.
like what are we doing? It was just so. What are we doing? Like, what character should I be focused on? It's just it just proves like from the ground up, the writing is just so bad, and it's sad because on first viewing, I was really mid on this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, it's kind of enjoyable, I guess. There's just nothing here though. And it's like it's only when you think about it. And if your show falls apart when you think about it, why should I think about it?
The other thing is, the Doctor is 1,000-year-old alien. He's a Time Lord, and he's been nearly everywhere, it seems to be, right? So why the hell did he run underneath the rocket and shout Belinda?
He just started shouting. Yeah, like nothing they do makes sense. It makes me want Mrs. Flood to just be a character almost, because I'm like, well, at least she's interesting. Well, at least she's doing something. And I don't know.
Why would this clever scientist stand underneath a rocket and shout a woman's name as if it would turn around? He's wasting time. Honestly, it's very soap opera. Goodbye. See you again. Or one of those missed departures and somebody doesn't quite say goodbye. It's soap opera.
They knew each other. And then that goes back into the writing. It's like we go to Belinda being a bad character, and it's because she's this progressive type of character, and she's impossible to talk to. You can't even call her miss. She's impossible to please. She barks orders at you. So it's how why would I care? Why aren't we seeing action? Why aren't we seeing actual development of her? It's like he can't even make me like the characters. So why can't I can't like the story? I can't like the characters. I can't like the story. Is that a basic writing principle? I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Christian, as you come in, sorry.
That's okay.
You know that RTD has actually explained this a few times, and he said the pre-credits sequence is basically the old episode 1. I'm not buying that anymore. That's not fair. You're depriving us of classic episode 1s. Yeah. Stop it. Bring them back.
Well, you're absolutely correct, but this goes back to the pattern of the episodic installments, where you'd have 4 to 8, in the case of the Time War, 10 30-minute installments, and you had the build-up. You didn't need information dumps, because the story itself would reveal to the viewer exactly what was happening at that moment in time. At the same time, you have the ability to develop the characters and to give them arcs to allow them to be interesting to the audience, and for there to be pathos, a sense of loss when a beloved character is killed off, and to actually make the reaction or lack of reaction from the other cast members meaningful when something like that happens. But he's depriving us of all of that.
Yes, but couldn't he do that if he just told the story in order? Like it's bad creation. Like everything about what was set up is just bad. It just so happens that when you watch it without turning your brain on, because I guess that's the only way we can watch Doctor Who now, it becomes sort of enjoyable. Because if he just told the story in order, instead of like holding the reveal of Broski getting kidnapped into the end, or the fact that the Doctor can only enjoy Belinda as a character as if he knows her entire timeline. He has to go into her entire timeline and know her better than she knows herself by knowing her future, to even just have a conversation with her, to try to get her in the TARDIS and like be a companion. It's just ridiculous. Like
And can I say this one? And Dalek Lives Matter, you've beat me to it. But I think in RTD trying to be flippant
That
and
too, yeah.
funny. The NHS, National Health Service, I suppose we're supposed to laugh. The doctor blew the electric on a hospital's life support machine, cared not one jot. Rest in peace, the victims. I don't know what else. I know it's supposed to be a bit of a joke, but he shut down a hospital.
No, that was a problem.
Yeah, people died. That's incompetence. Like incompetence from all areas. The writing, the acting, the characterization. Like it's just incompetence.
But Sonny, this is what you're supposed to have in television. You need a writer's room. So you're going to have 5 or 6 people around the table. Usually each one has been focused on a specific story and there are various points of development. And you bring up these questions and someone else in that room is going to say, hey, you knock out the power at the hospital. What's going to happen to the people on life support?
Yeah.
And we'll fix that. We're going to have a 2-line blurb from one of them. Kick the backup generators on. Okay, so now the audience knows. But he makes no effort along those lines. No one told him, and he thinks it's a joke. You've got to have input from people who know.
And this is when there's a double whammy effect going on in the execution I don't agree with. If the pre-credit sequence is the old-fashioned part 1, which used to be moody, mysterious, and actually my favorites, he's the flippancy and the superficial and the quicker pace. He's actually not even in the pre-credit sequence giving us a bit of mood, a bit of mystery. He's given us frivolity. And he's given us comedy. And that's not what the old classic part 1s did. So he's actually completely... So I'm not buying his argument. They were a waste of time. Start the music.
Precisely. It's not supposed to be a comedy. The opening episode should set the stakes. And you should leave with a sense of pressure, stress. What's going to happen next? He doesn't do that with his setups, but he does use it for a punchline.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it, Sonny? And I feel so sad, Sonny, because I know you've come in on this and you said it was moderate. And then the more we're thinking about it, and this is funny because every week on Who Night, when we do first impressions, our raw reaction, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, Christine and Sonny? Because I think this is the format, and maybe the thread's doing it as well, where we are gradually articulating a stronger response. That could be good, that could be bad. But you come in on it with some ideas. I only had time to watch Doctor Who just before we actually really streamed tonight because I was making all these new packages. And already I can see certain things fermenting in my brain. And I find it fascinating, don't you, Sonny, how we seem to be changing as we go. And this is it. This is what people are watching, a raw reaction, and they're seeing our reactions solidify.
It is. It definitely is, because I was ready to point out some good things, some bad things, mostly bad things. But then it's just like none of it holds up, because it's like, well, what can we talk about, right? And as we go on, as the more things connect, we're gonna have more just story stuff that we can talk about, and it's just gonna be nonsense. I wonder if we're ever gonna want to talk about it.
Well, I think part of the problem is our perception of it, positive or negative, is going to be colored with each successive episode. You know, people came in during the 60th anniversary specials with a great degree of anticipation and hope that RTD was going to right the ship. And with each successive installment became more and more disenchanted until we got up to Sutek, and everything was pretty much wiped out. So now people are coming in at this point, and we're trying to be more optimistic. We've got a new season, we've got a new companion, maybe things are going to be a little bit grittier. But with each successive installment, I would suggest that people's tolerance level for substandard production, creation, story writing, characterization, it's going to be harder to come in and not color even those moments that are good with just a sense of negativity because we want to just throw it all out at this point.
Yeah.
You see, and look, and I can be very fair, because one thing I was saying to Jamie when I watched this is that little robot thing, polish, which I know is very like Waters of Mars, gadget, but it was cute and I liked it. And it, as a kid, I would have really liked that little thing. Apart from what it did at the end, of course, but killing people. But I can still get, Doctor Who still has that ability to grab the younger ones. I mean, it'd be a great toy. So I got that, and I think it just grieves me that Doctor Who, like I said, with the money and all the rest of it going on, and goodwill from the BBC, the elements could be there. And like I said, just that little robot shows you that you could have people. It's a bit like K9, you go, yeah. I even like Chameleon. I hated it when he was killed.
Yeah.
So there were elements, Christian, where I thought that with a different writer who was just there to write stories, I have to say I think they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you've got the right writers. I keep saying this every time. There's a kernel of a story there. Give it to the right writer and let them construct the story properly, and you'll get something very satisfying on the screen. RTD won't allow for that.
No, because I'm assuming, Sonny, that after watching those 45 minutes, if I was an impressionable kid, I'm supposed to think Sasha 55, brilliant woman, female rebel leader and brave. And I'm also supposed to think, oh my gosh, Belinda is my role model for being a girl or a human being in the future. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I don't think I've got many messages, have I? I mean, if I'm a little young lad, I just have to think, gosh, I must do better. I better get off the computer. I might be turned into a monster.
If you were a young lad, you turned off a while ago, because anything I wanted to see wasn't expanded on or talked about, like the time paradoxes or the actual time paradox event. Like that's the only thing I really could grasp onto. Or the male characters, right? The rebels, like all of that, like the actual story not being told. Like I would have switched off a long time ago if I was actually watching this week to week, especially on a Saturday morning. This would have been like a substitute for a Saturday morning cartoon for me as a kid, right? At the time they're showing this for American audiences, and I don't know, I can think of a bunch of other stuff I'd rather be watching.
Yeah. You see, this is it, Christian. The shot I've got in front of you there, we're all sci-fi fans. Give me some of that. I mean, it had an element. We're all guessing. It had an element. It could have looked like the Dalek City, for example, or some were guessing it might have been Gallifrey. You know that actually that appeals to us, that shot. The other thing that appeals to me, I could feel my Doctor Who sensitivities getting excited, was when the TARDIS went through some sort of strange force field. That excites me. I'm a Doctor Who fan. There were elements there, just not enough.
Not enough, and not in a cohesive story form that we could fully appreciate.
Yeah. Was there anything, I know we're all forewarned now when we watch Doctor Who, like you said, there's a growing cynicism and preparedness. But then I also had lowered my bar on expectation as well. But when you watched it, what little moments did you have when you thought, oh, yes?
Well, for me, the grand shots. Like here we have the scene, the backdrop. I always love a lot of the good panoramas or vistas because it helps me picture the world. I want to go out and visit that world if I can. So there are moments like that. Going in to see the AI, as you said, the way the set was decorated. But, the sad thing is those moments were all visuals, but weren't necessarily related in a cardinal way to the story. It was set dressing. I should be moved by something with the character, something in the tension of the plot. That should be what grabs me. I shouldn't have to look at window dressing and say, "Oh, that's pretty. I like that."
Yeah. The other thing is, Sonny, I said it earlier, was I like a good death count, so we had that. And I've got the photograph there of a battle scene. I remember watching Resurrection of the Daleks, and that, the music almost counted down to the moment when the Daleks attack and they're all defend the prison ship. And that was a great moment in the 80s to see two Daleks attack and blow open that door. We all like that. In Earthshock, we all love the moment when the Cybermen are coming out of their capsules and they are trying to raid the bridge. We love those little mini battle sequences. But although the death count was a bit higher than normal, Sonny, I didn't see jeopardy. I didn't even get tense.
No. I was sitting here trying to think. I even looked at my notes. I was like, did I write down a good thing, like a good moment that made me go, no? As soon as I was done with the episode, I went to sleep. And it's like I had nothing to think about. Even like you said, and I don't give spectacle points because that's not what Doctor Who was about. It was never about that. What is it? Adversity breeds creativity, and that's not here at all. Like nobody, even the characters themselves are barely adverse. Like the biggest challenge the Doctor had was getting there 60 years too early or whatever he did. And that stuck with me. Like, okay, there was a little time shift, but like then the Doctor, he was just already there. One more thing, funny thing, when he was in the lineup when they were coming in, right, and he did the whole talking thing, I promised you, I looked at the screen and I was like, is that the Doctor? Like I was like, is that the Doctor? No, it's not. Maybe he's not supposed to be here. And then he walked up and I was like, it is the Doctor. Okay. Like I couldn't tell he was the Doctor. He had no presence. It's just bad. Like from the bottom up, the bones are bad. And it's like the more you think about it, the worse it gets.
I just have to follow up, Sonny. I love that line that you just shared. Adversity breeds creativity.
Yeah.
Maybe part of the problem is RTD has received no adversity.
None.
At Bad Wolf or with the BBC or with Disney. There was no adversity. He was able to do whatever he wanted. Maybe if he'd experienced a little adversity, he would have been more creative.
He has no pushback anywhere.
No. Now you see the thread, Dalek Lives Matters, the fight edited and misplaced slow-mo was bizarre.
It's action.
I've got Paul Richards saying I thought the battle scene was comedic in tone with those cartoon droids. The robots are funny. I mean, if I just get them up again, what did you make of them? I mean, you've got money now. Everybody says they're like the ones in Husbands of River Song. They changed the icon in the face. There was a love heart at one point. I feel as though I'm watching a cartoon.
There's no gravitas with them. If the robots are designed to be a threat, they need to look threatening. These don't look threatening. They look child friendly.
Yeah, Transformer.
A toy,
It's a toy, and that's part of the problem.
It also reminds me of, I don't remember the episode, the Capaldi episode with Bill Potts. I think it was her first adventure. Those robots, it had the face thing. Yeah, I want to say Kablam, but that's not right. That's the Jodie one. That's the other Jodie one with robots. I'm pretty sure with the same face thing, I guess. But yeah, it's just lazy. They don't set up the villain, and that includes the robots. Like we don't even know how the robots got on Planet Belinda, or why they populated Planet Belinda, or how are there people on Planet Belinda. Like who cares though? Right?
It's just that there's something about how, like I said, that the money's there. There's just something about how they are scripting and executing all these shots and then design. To me, and I'm not an expert I don't do gaming, but I know a retro look when I see one. And the robots seem very retro sci-fi, but with an element of cartoon. But equally, so did the rocket.
Yeah, for the rocket actually looked goofy. That looked the most Doctor Who out of the whole episode, in my opinion. That rocket shot going off, I'm like, now that's just classic goofy Doctor Who effects.
And isn't that rocket in design and shape almost like the Tintin rocket in Destination Moon, the rocket in Star Beast? It's very similar. We seem to be going now. I'm just saying, when you want Doctor Who to be taken seriously, and we'll say something like Talons of Wen-Chian, Genesis of the Daleks, they're dark in lighting. They didn't have anything retro going on. I just feel as though we're, I just feel as though it's mis-selling what it is.
Retro, when you go retro, you actually, to a degree, take away the gravitas from the story, because people are saying, oh, that's retro. It takes you out of the seriousness of the moment, just like the robots looking like toys.
Yeah.
If you want to increase the sense of jeopardy, you need to create the visual resonance that contributes to it. And stylistically, they aren't. That's why my first reaction was, this is Disney. The first word that came out of my mind was, this is Disney. It felt Disney. And that's not what Doctor Who is supposed to be.
The only thing I would allow, Christine and Sonny, is, as Mr. Squinty Mint is saying here, when I thought that the design of this rocket and the design of the Star Beast Beat the Meeps rocket look very, very similar, is it something to do with the toy maker? Because, of course, the only thing is, every one of these episodes, you can't just treat in isolation because of the way RTD operates. You can't enjoy them, or try to. You're always trying to go, oh, hold on, does this link with this? And it's like, are we going to have Bad Wolf again? Hints everywhere. So, yeah, I see what you mean, Mr. Squinty Mint. I really do. I want to actually, do you know what, in Doctor Who, I just want to enjoy an opening sequence, a story full of tension, and then it ends. And that story is done. I don't want, oh, God, there's Mrs. Flood. Oh, there's Susan Twist. Oh, there's Bad Wolf. Oh, there's... just stop. My head is killing me. Stop it. Can I sit back? Like you said, some of you have been on shifts. Some of you are knackered. We are viewers. Can we just be entertained with some escapist sci-fi and... no fourth wall breaking, no lecturing, just get on with it.
Precisely.
I don't think he's capable. Yeah, I don't think he's capable of doing it.
Well, I think that's very possible. I think that's the issue.
Yeah.
So as everybody has probably seen now, different reviews, different days. This is our reaction one. And we'll have our bingo scorecard and all the rest of it. And tomorrow night, 5:45, I've got a different panel. Scores on the doors, scores on the sarcophagus, the burning issues, and our mark criteria, and the ratings watcher. Got all that. And then obviously on Tuesday night at 8 p.m, the Children of Time, they have to be under 35 to get into that panel, because they're the chosen ones by RTD, remember?
Of course.
They're the ones he's writing for. I'll compare, because I don't fit that category, but I'll compare. My opinions won't count on that episode. I will just be kind of questioning, but I'll be being cheeky and sarcastic. That's what I'll be doing. So we have done our debut Who Night, Christian. Has it gone as we expected, do you think?
It went very well. I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to get a lot off our chests and to share some divergent points of view, actually. So I was quite satisfied with it.
Yeah. And before I come to Sonny, please, everybody, like and subscribe, tell a friend, repost our adverts, just to make sure, we have some elbow room. So, Sonny, have you... normally on Friday I say, have you detoxed? But after doing that, I feel as though I've firmed more anger and frustration with Robot Revolution.
Not even anger and frustration. I'm more disappointed, because if this was season 1, I almost would have said, you know what, guys, this is good. Not even like, we have all our issues, but low key is good. There's a setup, there's some payoff. Maybe we'll grow to like the characters because they're not awful, they're just toxic and out of character. But but you know, maybe we can grow to like them. But this is season 2, right? It's like, and if it relates anything back to past stuff, then it can be worth it, and then maybe I'll go back and watch season 1. But it's like, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't have any faith in it. It doesn't inspire me, and it's just like it's kind of rough. But it's a lot of cope, in my opinion, because it's just like the more I talk about it, the more down I get on it. Even if I'm trying to look for good points and I listen to the good points, I'm like, that's not a good point.
I know. The warning tomorrow night is I've got a tasty panel and they have been sending me their burning issues. And I can feel my opinion solidifying. And so I think it's going to be fiery tomorrow night at 5:45. Yeah. Wait till you see the scores. Tomboy Chick, I feel more resigned than angry or annoyed. Mm-hmm. Jess, apologies for being late. Just like and subscribe. Just check on all that lot. Andrew, don't think Simon should be on channel. Very worrying. He is. I'm not paying him, but he is my contrarian. I like to have an alternative view. I'll push back on it. We always do. But he, you know, that's what we need. Me and Christian, who teach debating, we hate echo chambers. Just hate it. Demorpin, brace yourselves. In the new trailer, Rinading announces his entrance with a guttural ta-da. I know, Demorpin. I thought that as well. Sounded like the maestro. Everything has to be so camp, doesn't it? Ta-da! I should maybe start tomorrow's show with ta-da. Maybe that's what I should do. And then it's very meta. Very meta.
There you go.
Yeah.
Approve.
Anyway, thank you everybody for your support. Thank you everybody for sticking with us. Hope you join us again next week at 11 p.m. for Who Night and Lux. And tomorrow night, 5:45 and Tuesday, 8 p.m. I hope the lads will be here, but thank you, lads, and thank you, Simon, earlier. Talk to you later. Good night. Bye.